Gonna open up the Water Source Commissioners meeting. It's October 12th and it's 7 p.m. President is Colin here, Bob Josie, Keith Wanyaz, and Bob Sullivan. And we're gonna go on with the school committee here first before we go through anything else. So, introduce yourselves. This is Courtney and
I'm Paul Vieira, the superintendent.
okay.
And Courtney Keegan, the business and operations manager.
All right. So
So I think we,
Okay. So I did, in just contacting the town, I really wasn't really sure what to do because, you know, the department of the town wasn't sure like how process it would be, but they did send me the application for abatement that I have forwarded to. I think Bob, you also got it as well, but I don't know if you.
We all
Bob
have
Sullivan, I'm sorry, but
Bob
everybody
Sullivan.
has a copy.
we all have
Okay.
copies of them in there.
you
Okay.
got 'em in here?
Yep.
So just to kind of summarize, I know that it has been brought up a few times over the years from what I was told. I know when Kevin Mays was here, it got brought up, and you know, so but regarding having a deduction meter. So I did contact every area town, and you did see, you know, the information that I provided here regarding a deduction meter. So we're applying for an abatement. Basically, we got a bill that was absolutely humongous, as you saw. And I know it's not just, I know that the rates also went up, and I totally understand that. But the water that, and we understand paying for the water, absolutely no problem there whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. But as far as the water that's going onto the fields, you know, it's not going into the sewer system. And, you know, so we are applying for an abatement, but really the crux of it is, you know, a discussion about, you know, going forward prospectively, bringing the discussion up about having the deduction meter. So I did contact every area town, and everyone that has a field that's on town water, they all have deduction meters. They don't charge their school department for the water that goes onto the field because it's not going in the sewer. Of course, they pay for the water and everything else, of course. You know. So basically, that's the crux of it. And I did give you a little bit of information too with regard, because I am applying for an abatement, regarding the school year and the time frame, to give you a little bit of information, because I know it's a kind of tough situation for you guys as well, if you were amenable to issuing an abatement, to come up with what that would be, because we don't have the deduction meter, you know, so. And this is only for the high school field, and we have no problems with anything else as far as the sewer portion or anything. Obviously, we owe all of that, and we understand that completely.
Well, that's the only field that's
Yeah.
watered, right, with sprinkler?
No, they do have
no.
sprinklers at the elementary,
Yeah.
but they have the wells and they put that
Yeah.
cistern in
They
when
have
they
the
did
cistern.
the.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's really only the high school that's really at issue. Yeah. So, and I'd be happy to provide you with any additional information. I did put together what I thought that would be, you know, useful information for you to have. But if you wanted any historical data, you know, I can get that for you. I don't know how relevant that is, because I do understand history doesn't necessarily have anything to do with present or future, but
I think we have a lot of the history here.
yeah, no, I know. I just, if you wanted me to provide it for you, I'd be happy to do that too. And it was that bill that and I know it has been brought up like several, actually all the way back when Dean was here, but it's when we got that bill. It was a humongous bill, you know.
Courtney's usually pretty calm, and I
Far
know
and
that's
away.
for those
Yeah.
who know Courtney. And she
Yeah.
came running up to the office like, "Paul,
Here's the history. Did you see this bill?
you see this bill?" You know, and we know things went up
Yeah.
and things fluctuated, but she's like,
And we understand that.
and she said,
you know, yeah.
and obviously the timing of the bill was June, July, and August when no one was in school. I mean, at the
Yeah.
high school we had 3 custodians, a principal, and an assistant principal. So we had 5 people.
And the secretary,
In the
yeah,
secretary,
yeah.
we had
I
5
think
or
I put
6
that in
people.
here, yeah,
5 or 6
yeah,
people
yeah.
in the building were like, I don't
Yeah.
think we did 100,000 gallons
Yeah,
in December.
yeah,
In June, July, and
Yeah, I
August.
know. There
Whatever
really was
the number
nothing
was.
going on. Yeah, exactly. For 1/3 of that whole time frame, but yeah, it was a tremendous.
So if you go much further into it,
Yeah,
the page that Josie has,
yeah, I've seen it.
that has like back to 2004, I think. So that's got kind of the historical usage and everything.
Oh, they have
They
that.
have
He
it,
did, yeah, he
okay.
provided it to the commissioners. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
my admin
which is nice. Yeah.
pulled all that
Yeah,
up so we could
yeah.
have all the historical
Yeah.
stuff. But
like I said, we have no problems with the rates, and we totally understand that, being part of a department of the town, we totally understand what it takes to run a town, and we get that completely.
Historically, it seemed to be pretty much the same.
Well,
Yeah,
not
there was-
dollar wise, but
No,
usage.
not all of
No,
it.
but just usage wise, and there was
So-
like 05 and 06, there was some 300, over 300 cubic foot.
300,000 cubic feet.
Yeah, 300,000 cubic feet.
I wonder if, I don't know if you were here then, Bob, but was there kind of a
I
or
was
something
not.
at the time,
I
or-
came in
oh,
in
okay.
2009, so.
Yeah, okay. Probably some anomaly, like some kind of something that happened at that time, probably.
Was it construction?
Actually, I was gonna say
Okay.
2004, 2005 was right around. It was a couple years into when the school was built, so they were probably irrigating a lot, trying to get everything
Oh,
established.
yes, yeah, the new high school,
getting the
yes,
field
good point,
established.
exactly, yeah,
No.
'cause it's been 17 years, 18, 19, 20,
It was
exactly.
like 01, yeah.
There you
Which is
go.
what it is, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
So that would be my guess on those first couple
Yeah.
years there.
Yeah, we even complained about it. I remember complaining a little back then because they were watering everything. I mean, raining out and they were still watering.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Oh, really?
I have seen you guys do that. You do a bunch of things wrong. I've mentioned it to
Yeah.
some people. I just haven't, followed up too much, and I tried to put it to people that might get it to you guys, but apparently it didn't. But you water in the middle of the day. That's not good because the sun evaporates half the water. It doesn't get into the ground or the roots. It also forms the water droplets on the grass, and with the sun hitting it, that magnifies. It works like a magnifying glass, and it burns the grass. So you're actually counterproductive. You're more ruining the grass than getting it to grow right. You should water early in the morning or in
oh,
the
yeah,
evening.
yeah, you would think, yeah.
So the sprinklers are going off
Yes,
in the
not
middle of
my
the day?
understanding,
Oh, yeah.
I don't have, I don't.
Yeah, they run in the
Not
day.
I mean,
mine.
we
Like-
talked about this before, and
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely look into that, I mean, I've
And-
never known of them doing it during the day, but I'll definitely look into that,
Well,
yeah.
if I had time to go through all my pictures, I could show you.
I
You
believe-
don't
I
have
get
to-
people
you
that
don't
yell
have
at me
to
all
do
the
that,
time,
I
for
believe-
it, but you
if
also
you
have
drive
it.
by there and you see water going off at 12 o'clock,
Yeah,
it makes sense. So we'll
Yeah.
look at that. 'cause you
yeah,
should be watering
definitely, yeah,
in the morning, early in the morning.
that's
or
what I
at
do
night.
at home.
Right. It's
What
more
else?
effective.
Yeah.
I know a lot of your sprinkler heads aren't, they're easy to adjust, but you guys have them watering sidewalks and the driveway. The elementary school does the same thing. If you drive down that hill, there's always, when they're going, they water the driveway. Whereas you're not paying for that water, it's not as bad, but when you are paying for the water, it's a little more, you wanna, and again, like,
Sprinkler heads, yeah,
like Josie said, when it rains, your sprinklers still go off. I think it's like $15 for one of those Rainbird devices that will detect rain, and then it will shut off your sprinklers so that they don't run for whatever you set it to. It's a very cheap device that, this year it wouldn't have made any difference because it didn't rain all summer, so.
yeah, yeah, we know that,
So what's
yeah.
that device?
It's
Rain
a
detector device.
rain
Okay.
detector, yeah, it's a small little device that you wire in. I'm assuming you guys have a control panel to run it. And it just goes in and interrupts your automatic cycle, and it'll pause it until the next time it's supposed to run.
Okay. Anything? Those seem like pretty easy fixes. Low quarters and tell me nothing's easy. But are those anything else on that list that comes to mind?
No, so those are the key points that I had, and besides the fact that you shouldn't do it because it's not good to water in the middle of the day, we have a water ban in effect every year. The state requires it. We're not supposed to do any outdoor watering between the hours of 9 and 5.
Yeah, because I remember Jeff mentioning we couldn't water during the day, yeah.
Yeah, May 1st to
Yeah.
September 30th.
Yeah, yeah,
The water ban's on every year.
yeah, just like Uxbridge,
Okay.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
every town. So
Yeah.
some of those towns that you may have called probably haven't got that far into it. It just depended on when. It's a 20-year permit that we get. So some of those people may have got their permits just before the new rules came into play. And our Water Management Act permit, and it was, in fact, we argued with the selectmen over signing the agreement because we were fighting it. We fought with the state for, was it 2 or 3 years that we fought with them before we finally agreed?
Now, what is this, I'm sorry, what is this permit for, Bob?
It's the
20
Water
permit?
Management Act permit.
Oh,
So
okay,
That's
yeah.
our permit. The state authorizes us to withdraw water to sell it to
Yeah.
customers and use it.
And is that the permitting thing having to do with,
The water ban.
oh, yeah, well, yeah,
So-
but when there's a drought, people just have to have some common sense.
But
to,
even-
you know, yeah,
And
yeah.
the droughts kind of,
Yeah.
and this is my issue with their putting it in our permit that every year, so
Yeah.
like last year was probably the wettest year ever, and we still had to issue a water ban. And if you look
I
at your
remember
usage,
that. Yeah.
if you look at your usage,
I
you only
remember
used
that.
64,000 last
Yeah,
summer, as
yeah.
opposed to 255,000 this year.
Mm-hmm.
So last year was the wettest year. This year was the driest year, and
Yeah.
probably since the 50s, I think. So
Yeah, yeah, they'd said
so this was
right.
the driest year. So what happens is they make us, in our Water Management Act permit,
Mm-hmm.
they require us to issue that water ban. So every year we issue it, whether it rains every single day of the year or not. So it kind of seems counterproductive to me because people just
Yeah.
look at it and say, all right, yeah, it's in effect, whatever. They do it every year, whether we need it or not.
Yeah.
So this year, where it was in the news and everything else, and they're telling you, don't water, wells are running dry, you shouldn't be watering lawns and everything else. So it doesn't have as much of an effect when you put it in every year. So it drives me crazy that they put that requirement in the permit, whether you need to or not. There should be something that triggers that need.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, Bob. It's kind of like the beeping noise on a backing up truck. Nobody hears it after
Yeah.
a while, and they still walk
Yeah,
right out in
you're
front of the truck.
I learned a few new things today. So every
Yeah.
every municipality
Yeah, I didn't realize
gets a
this
permit
either. Yeah.
Yes.
to sell water.
To withdraw the water.
To
so they have
how much we
to,
can withdraw.
so how much water you can pull out of the ground or out of a river or wherever you're
Really?
getting your water source
I
from.
didn't know that.
and as
either.
part of that
Yeah.
permit, it says
Yeah.
that from May 1 to September 30th,
Whatever.
regardless of the
The
conditions,
Yeah.
you can't water
Really?
9 to 5.
Correct. And some people have different ways to implement it. They'll do an odd even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
I've
know,
seen that.
Odd even, this
Yeah.
side of the street can do these days, this side can do that those days. This year they implemented
Yeah.
a strict ban
Oh,
that
yeah.
nobody was
On
supposed to be
everybody.
using
Yeah,
it for
yeah,
anything.
yeah, for good
Not
reason.
watering
Yeah.
cars, not washing houses,
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah, this year was scary. This year made everybody wake up. I mean, I was actually saving when I was doing dishes, when I was rinsing anything, I was collecting all the water to water all my plants. And even, you know how you run the bath, you're waiting for the hot water to finally come?
Yeah.
I collected it all in a pail. I mean, it was very scary. It kind of makes you wake up and realize that everything can be precarious. You know?
There is, in the DEP,
Yeah.
I've read it a while, I'd have to refresh my memory on it, but I believe there's language in there about irrigation systems and they have a protocol that should be followed on that. I don't know if that would be.
So we send out a lot of those tips and water saving and some of the things that we got from the state and their recommendations and policies.
Could you send that to me, Bob?
They're all on
Would it
our
be too much
website as
trouble
well.
to-
Yeah, they're on
Oh,
our
okay.
website, but I can have Lee
Okay.
forward you everything
I
too.
believe everything went out with a bill.
Yeah, and then the water
Yeah.
quality report too, we have, this one just happened to be a copy from last year, but we have
Yeah.
because we've got to mail that to every customer. So we put a snippet in the corner about the ban.
Yeah, so you guys get those every year too.
Yeah, see, unfortunately, no, there's somebody else that's processing the stuff and going through, so I'm looking at
Yeah.
warrants, like Gene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, yeah.
we
So
probably
that
got
would be
lumped in
good
with
to
the junk
have.
mail.
I'm sorry?
We probably got lumped in with the junk mail.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't call it junk mail. No, it's good information, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've always been in favor of, I think that we should follow the DEP guidelines and allow irrigation systems.
So, yeah, DEP does allow irrigation systems. Before my time, and actually it was right, 2001 was when they were building the school, right? Because the school went in, they put in the irrigation, and then you guys issued the ban on irrigation systems.
I wasn't on that.
I wasn't on that.
Well,
I think
We'll
commissioner,
blame Josie, because
whoever they were at the time.
For the record, I'm
I
opposed
think
to
the
the ban on
the
irrigation.
ban I think
it
went
went
into
into
effect
allow
around
irrigation,
2001, 2002.
Yeah.
provided they follow DEP guidelines.
Right,
that's
right.
set out by the.
Yeah, because we all have to be cognizant. We're talking about water. It's a resource that we all need to live. So
Right.
that's the way I look at it anyway.
And I'll tell you
Yeah.
one of the other things that I've thrown out there, because I think you guys have some program where the seniors have to do some kind of community
Correct.
service project or something. I keep telling everybody, I think
do.
that would be a good.
Seniors have to do community service hours. They don't have to necessarily do a project, but they do.
Right.
Oh,
service
seniors! I'm
hours.
sorry.
Not senior citizens.
No,
senior-
only because I was dealing
High
with
school
I was
senior.
dealing with the abatement thing last week.
Yeah.
Senior citizens
No.
abatement workout program. Okay, sorry.
The other seniors.
Yeah, so I had said when for the past few years when I see how much you guys use during the summer,
Yeah.
I was like, geez, I think that would probably be a good senior project is to look into some of that green stuff where you collect rain water, the roof drains, or if you can come up with some kind of system to
Yeah.
water some of your areas as opposed to using the town water.
Big environmental.
Yeah, and they can go.
That's what I mean, and
And also, we can go to water the garden that I'd love to have at the schools.
Right, so I mean, there's a lot of things like that,
Someday.
and if you had some seniors that were looking at an environmental program or environmental engineering, there's a lot of stuff out there that they could research and come up with, you know, ground covers for your little medians there or whatever, that instead of grass, you put something that's drought resistant and stays green, that you don't have to cut, you don't have to, you know, like I said, there's a lot of different programs out there that they work on like that.
Yeah, and they probably have a lot of information on them and kits
Oh,
and
yeah.
things of that
All
nature.
kinds
They already
of-
have put together, you
Yeah,
know?
quick, easy
Like
things
they
to
do for any STEM program, it's kind of the same thing,
Right,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, they have everything pretty much available.
So that was just some things that I
Yeah.
had discussed with other people in the past that, you know, just looking at the usages that you guys
Yeah.
use, that it seems
Yeah.
like, you know, and Douglas being a green communities now, you know, it's just one of those things that you guys could put in your newsletter or whatever that
Yeah,
says you did
yeah.
this type of project.
Yeah.
And there may even be
Yeah.
grants out there for things like they have the, you know, for the men's rooms, they have like the dry urinals now
Yeah.
and things like that. I don't know if there's grant money or any programs like that involved for switching over.
Oh, no, we,
From-
I believe that's what we have in our elementary school that was part of the project.
Yeah, that would have been some.
Yeah,
of the
because we
probably-
had, yeah, because I remember some of
I
the issues
remember.
we had with them in the beginning of the project, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because my office was located right next to the boys' room, the second floor
They put in
at that
one of the
time.
urinals? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, they had them
remember,
at the
but
elementary
okay, yeah.
school, yeah, there was some issues that we had, but,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
I
it's
never
addressed
figured it
now,
out.
but you know, yeah, yeah.
And understanding
Yeah.
that the highest water usage is gonna be during the summer months, cause they're getting the fields ready for kids coming back to school.
Sports.
The sports gonna be.
Sports,
intense.
yeah, all that, yeah.
So the summer is gonna be the highest use.
So
For irrigation
For
stuff.
irrigation, yes.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Which unfortunately, during your off season of school is when you use the most water because of the irrigation.
Right,
So,
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
so yeah, I just wanted to throw some of those.
Yeah. Any chance of putting a
Thoughts
well
and
in up
things
there,
out
or?
there.
I think they had a problem with getting water up in that area, didn't they?
Well, that was the elementary school. I know they spent a lot of money trying to get water out of those that well that they have up there. They refracked it. They did a bunch of work. They had to put in that cistern in order to let the well run slower. I think they were only getting
Even
like
that
5
was the
gallons a
whole
minute.
thing with the cistern.
Oh yeah, I
You
know.
remember that?
Yeah, I do.
yeah, but it seems to be working well. I walked the track the other night with my wife, and
Yeah.
it was the field up there looks fantastic.
Yeah,
So that system is finally working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works. So, I know part of some of the projects that we're doing. I mean, you guys have come to the meetings on some of these water projects and stuff. So,
yeah.
so we're in the middle of those, but we're also looking at projects going down Davis Street and stuff like that, and investigating other potential sources for wells.
Yeah, oh,
And I know someone had mentioned this week about
yeah.
potentially looking at that property over behind the high school, where I think they were looking at solar at one point. I don't know. There's something going on in that area, but someone had mentioned that may be a potential well site. I don't know. I haven't looked at that particular site. We've got other sites kind of down that end that we were.
I know there was talk about an access road back there. and
Yeah.
They were gonna do the solar, whoever put in the solar was gonna do an access road.
Right.
So,
That's right, yeah.
so, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've only been here 3 years, and Nat said they've been talking about solar on the access road for 10 years
Yeah.
now, so.
And you
It's
know
been a
how it
while.
is when somebody promises to do something only if they get something else. It's
I
sometimes-
think they actually tried a couple different things. I think they did like
Yeah.
a little pilot over there to
Thank you.
determine if they could put windmills or something at one
Oh,
point.
really?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
maybe even more than that now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're like Joe's.
Well, it
we
was
lose
since
track of
Matt's been
time.
here.
Yeah.
When Matt was here, yeah. I forgot about that. Time
Yeah.
flies when you're having fun, Bob.
I know.
A lot
So
of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's right too, they tried that, and I guess, yeah.
I think they were worried about the noise that you get, that harmonic noise or whatever from the windmills and
Well,
all
that
that.
and
Yeah.
the flicker. I think the flicker
Yeah.
from the light is
Mm,
supposedly an issue too with some of those.
yeah.
So
The
anyway.
fields do look good though. I will say that. They
Yeah.
do look
Yeah,
nice.
they were nice.
I know.
So
My,
that's
daughter,
right.
my daughter plays soccer.
We
so
try, yeah.
She's
A lot of work just to get things
Yeah.
ready for sports. People don't
Yeah.
realize it's a lot of work.
And you
a
want
lot
to
of
make it
work
look nice.
getting
You're
ready for
hosting other
sports.
communities coming in. You want to have
Yeah.
a nice looking field. You don't want to,
Yeah.
dust bowl.
Yeah.
You know, so I agree. They should be. I'm glad they're well taken care of. I mean, because I know it's a little expense with that.
Mm.
I'm in favor of an exception meter for the
The
field.
deduction
itself.
meter, yeah, just for that, just for the sewer
field,
part.
Just on that portion.
Yeah. just for the
How's
sewer
that,
part.
Bob? Can you refresh my memory with the bylaw? So I know there's no,
So we don't have any exception meters.
we don't have any exception.
Yeah, those have been. I don't think they've ever allowed
Yeah,
it.
it's never been
They've
allowed.
there has been one. I know gentleman that had one on the farm. up
And the
on-
reasoning behind that was trying to get people to
But
conserve.
Carter's farm had an exception meter in the barn,
I know, yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
yeah.
It didn't really work as an exception meter,
It
but
didn't.
we can explain that later.
I mean, we've never really had any high usage like, you know, the.
Yeah, this is a-
things like
yeah.
that, So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of,
Yeah, so we don't have exception meters, and then when you ban sprinkler systems, that was really
Points, yeah.
a moot point, I guess. Any sprinkler systems, and I think you guys came in the year that they implemented the ban on sprinkler systems, so you were grandfathered in with the high school. And then your elementary school is off of your well,
Yeah,
so
right,
again,
yeah.
that's not on the water
Right.
system, so.
Yeah, it's only the high school. This
Yeah,
is
so-
it.
So the
It's an
town,
issue.
so the town doesn't allow exception meters because there's a ban on sprinkler systems. So there's no need for an exemption meter because there's a ban on sprinkler systems.
Right.
But we're one of the only facilities or
There-
areas in town where it has a sprinkler system that got put in before the ban went into.
Before the ban.
With the
There's,
school
there's a
project.
few, there's some residential
Yeah,
ones.
there's
With the
there's
school
a few.
project.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a few.
Okay.
I think
Bank, I
Unibank,
think, is
yeah, the
one.
bank has one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Unibank has one. There were another one that was watering in
Yeah.
the middle of the day. We actually shut their water off because they wouldn't stop watering, but.
And we are talking about a school being built that, of course, a number of residents and people in town are all part of that whole process and decision making,
Yeah.
you know.
So, one of the other
yeah.
things with the exception meter is, as part of those Water Management Act permits, so we're supposed to take steps to discourage non-essential use of water. And that's one of the methods that we use, is you're paying sewer on it, so it's a lot higher fee to use that for washing cars and watering lawns and everything like
Right,
that, so.
right.
It's kind of a discouragement thing,
Right, to conserve. Yeah.
right? So, just so you
Oh,
understand
no,
some
I
of the reasoning
understand. Yeah,
behind
Yeah,
why it's,
Yeah.
it's,
What tells you there's always a reason. You just have to
Well,
ask.
Gene knows there's always a story
There's
behind
always
the
a
numbers.
story behind
Yeah.
the numbers, yeah.
But and I know that residential is probably the same maybe in Uxbridge too, where I live, but yet the schools have it. That's what I'm suggesting, maybe because it's a department of the town and the schools are built, it's a town building and the town's involved in it. I mean, it's not like a residential,
right, so up
Property,
until,
yeah.
I wanna say 3 years ago,
yeah,
that was one of DEP's exemptions, things for municipal buildings, municipal use, water in town commons, water in fields and stuff like that, but in the not last year, but the year before and this year, they really amped up more, and if you look at their language now, they're saying no outdoor use at all. So they're saying no watering cans, no anything. So I think the only thing that they allow now for is for like gardens for producing food for your family, because you can't stop someone.
oh, during the water ban,
Right.
ban.
So,
Yeah, I think I read up on that too, because only because of the drought this year about what, if it's food for your family kind of thing. you
right,
know.
so they're getting more aggressive with it. And again, they drive me crazy because we had an instance in town where somebody had a house and they were renting it. They were renting it out. They didn't live there, so they were renting it, and the tenant was setting up a hose on a slide and just letting it run all day for their kids when they wanted to go out and use it like a water slide.
Oh.
So
wow.
their bill was huge, and
Oh,
the owner
wow.
came in complaining, and
Gee.
I called the state and said, "Look, is there something that we can do? Should we?" Oh no, you just let the kids have fun. I'm like, "You're telling us we have to put
Oh,
these bans in
that's
place,
not
and now
right.
you're not
That's
going to
so
help me
typical
enforce it."
sometimes, huh?
So-
Yeah. And then it makes it hard for you to enforce it.
Right,
when
that's what I
somebody
mean. I'm
finds
like,
out, oh, it's okay that I did it. We all know how that goes.
Yeah. So I'm coming to you as the enforcement
Yeah,
agency and making us do
exactly.
these things, and then you're telling me
You
to let
can't
it go.
win on that
so-
one. Yeah, that's not a good.
It's like when you call the MIAA for support. They want you to
Oh.
enforce the rules, but they'll never.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
Okay.
yeah.
I shouldn't have said that on camera.
It's not untrue though.
so, given the fact that the school had the irrigation system prior to any ban, which I don't agree with Ben, I think we should have that on a future agenda when it's a discussion. I've brought it up several times, to allow sprinkle irrigation systems with the DEP guidelines as laid out. So, would the board be amenable to agreeing to an exception meter on the high school, given the fact that they already had the irrigation system, which was allowed to begin with, and the fact that the water usage is so high, there is no sewer on it, and we are probably one, like we said, one of the only communities that don't allow.
Well, I'm not sure which towns you checked, but I know
Well,
several
I
that.
gave you the information.
Is it all
I
in
gave
this
you,
list?
Every
Yeah.
town around us.
Yeah.
I
Sutton
contacted.
doesn't even water.
Yeah, and I gave you that, and I did,
Yeah,
I did
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
I made sure,
So-
full disclosure,
So if
you
you
know.
were to build
Yeah.
something, if you were to build something now, you would have to put a well in if you wanted to irrigate
Correct.
your fields.
And if you look at the big picture of that, most times, most cases, you're not using the town water, but you're pulling out of the same aquifer, so.
It's another thing
It's a-
that
it's a
I've
good
argued
point.
with the
Right.
state
Because
over,
you're pulling the
Right.
same, you're
Right.
pulling out of the same,
Yeah.
water table.
but they're not regulated through the state, it's regulated through the town, through the
Okay.
local board of health.
So they don't.
So if you drill a well, you're regulated through the board of health, and if you're using it for irrigation, it's not potable for 25 people or more, 60 days a year, so it doesn't trigger a public water supply requirement, so you don't have to follow all those rules.
But it's.
Yeah, because the water that you're
It's
watering with
coming
up
out of
there
the
is.
same.
Why?
coming
Well,
out of the
that's,
same
well, that's what I
aquifer.
kept saying this
That's
summer,
it.
when you see the signs on people's lawns, I'm
Hold
watering
on.
from my own well, and I was taking a walk at the front, I
Yeah.
said, I don't understand why anybody would put that sign out. There's a water aquifer, you know, it's just, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, if you look at that
I
map,
never
that map right over
understood.
there shows
Yeah.
all those dark green areas. and
Yeah, it doesn't
bright
come from the
areas.
sky, you
Yeah.
know, so,
Right.
yeah. I always wondered about that, why people,
So it's just
yeah.
a different regulatory
Yeah.
body.
I didn't realize that, it
Yeah.
came under a different,
Yeah.
aha. We learn a lot of new things every day.
It's also refreshing to know we're not the only ones who deal with things that don't make any sense. All right.
A little
A
refreshing.
little, not a lot refreshing, but at least a little refreshing.
Popular phrase of unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a list and go from here 4
Right.
miles, yep.
So there's, I guess, so there's two things on the table, and one being they were looking for the abatement, and then the second was the exception meter. Is that how we understand those?
Yep.
What's the board's thought on the abatement with the condition that if we did allow the exception meter, we thought would be amenable to abating this and then, or not abating it and then letting them put the exception meter in, and then the next bill would be substantially less moving forward.
My tendency at this point would be to not abate,
And then,
but do the investigation on the exception meter, because we're gonna make sure that we're within the DEP guidelines on that. And then, because like Bob was saying, that it is allowable for municipal buildings, so just clarify that language with DEP.
so we could make a motion contingent upon that it's allowable,
Meeting DEP
meeting
standard.
DEP standards.
For public, for public buildings only.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, just make sure that we're completely clear on that, you know, that those are allowable on public buildings, municipalities, for fields, town commons, and things like that.
I don't think I think we're probably one of the few communities that don't have that. I've talked to a lot of different people, and they said they've had on the exception meter, the one on the
like I said,
municipal side.
you gotta wait and look to see when they had their permits renewed. So if they're outside of that, within the next probably 5 to 8 years, most of those towns would probably be up for a new Water Management Act permit, and they'll have more stringent requirements in their permits. So they may have beat it like you guys did for the irrigation system. You got it in just in time before they had implemented the ban on irrigation.
That was the
The new-
local.
Right, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
these towns, I mean, I know Sutton, they have their own wells at the schools, and they're horrible. You
They
never
don't
wanna,
even do-
never
yeah,
wanna
I
drink the
know.
water there, cause
Yeah,
they've got
yeah, we know.
perchlorate, arsenic, radon, everything over there. And I know that their wells don't produce what they need, so they're limping by
Yeah, they.
day to day just for the use on their waters.
Yep,
Webster has all the water they can possibly think of, because they're basically pulling it out of Webster Lake, so there's no concern with their volume. Let's see, Oxford, I I find that one hard to believe a little bit, just because Oxford is run by Aquarian, and Aquarian's a private company, so they're in the business to make money. So they may not they may not bill for the sewer because
Yes, just the sewer, just the deduction meter
Right.
and sewer, that's all of them, yeah.
because
Of course, we should pay for the water, yeah,
but
yeah.
the sewer is probably a town department, whereas the water department is a private company. So they're not the same department. So the water department doesn't care what they bill for sewer because they don't deal with the sewer. So it's a private company that owns the Oxford water system. So that would be a different comparison. Same
But
as
they don't
the
have
sewer.
storage in Oxford, do they?
I don't know what they have for.
It probably doesn't change their water usage though.
No, but if they but.
I mean, they're still gonna.
I don't
the
know
fields
of
are still gonna
Oxford
be-
having a wastewater
Just a matter of.
plant
Yeah,
or
they
system.
don't have
If they have a
wastewater
septic
plant.
system, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, if they have it, yeah, that's not in the town.
I mean, I know it's Orchard Hill. They have their own private wastewater plant, so they don't have town sewer there. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it.
I'm not sure what Oxford
I've never
is.
really dealt with anything about Oxford on their sewer side.
Yeah, they just said they have a deduction meter and they take it off the bill, you know.
So is it a deduction meter or an exception meter?
Well,
Or is it-
all
is
the
it
places called it a deduction meter,
deduction,
yeah.
I
Probably
don't-
because it's deducting on the bill, I
Okay,
don't know, you know.
Yeah,
Is that
we
what
always
that's-
call them exception meters, but
Oh, yeah, oh.
yeah, I know. So because Jean kept saying that, I don't know. She said something that started with a D. I'm like, I don't know. We've always referred
wondering
to
if there's a
it.
difference. That's why I'm-
Started with a D.
Yeah, I was wondering if
That's
they-
funny.
They probably refer to it as a deduction meter because they're deducting that from their
Yeah.
sewer bill,
Yes.
but it's an exception
Exception
meter.
for
Yeah, on your
in
end,
your
it's an
language,
exception,
yeah.
right, exactly, right, it makes
You're
sense.
graded an exception by
Right,
getting a
exactly,
deduction.
yeah, yeah. Makes sense, yeah.
So, but they're the same thing.
Is there any plans on, could they explore the avenue of putting a well in up there? Or do they-
Yeah, I mean, to
Is
be
that-
honest with
We
you,
wouldn't be able to do it, the school department wouldn't be able to do it, that would have to be a town thing.
no, to be honest, you could do it as a
No,
school
this-
department as well.
Yeah.
It'd be on
Yeah.
your property essentially. I mean, I know it's all town property.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't
But-
be able to do that on our own, you know what I mean?
No, an irrigation
Yeah.
well, you could. The school
You
board,
could.
You could bring it up. The school board, if they wanted to bring all it's Jeff.
And right there's your I mean, this would be a no-brainer for me because like I said, it's not a public water supply well, so you don't
No,
have
but
to meet
I'm
You
talking
just
about
look at-
funding, I'm talking about funding.
and that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, yeah.
You don't have to meet the
Yeah.
for us to build a well, it's over $1 million for us to put a well in. For you guys putting in a well, I mean,
It would be less than.
that's what I was gonna say.
Be
You
made.
spent more on your one bill than it would cost you to put a well in. And then your savings would be every year thereafter.
An irrigation
So
well. Just
if you were
for
teaching an economics class, this would be a no-brainer to say, all right, we spent,
with the hope.
you know, $20,000 or $30,000 on sewer that if we had a well, we wouldn't have had to pay. And you wouldn't have to pay the water or sewer on that, and the majority of your summer usage is your irrigation. You know, you justified that in your letter, that almost all your usage during those months.
That time.
Right,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
most of that bill would be eliminated,
Mm.
so that money could go directly to putting a well in, and after your initial expense of putting the well in, it
You
would be
gain that.
free to you, so that would be
Yeah, we
that
don't
much
use
more
that
money
those that high.
every year
anomaly, yeah.
that you would save. You know, your payback in any business class, they'll tell you, you know, a 3-year is a no-brainer, you do it, 5 years, most likely you're gonna do it. Anything beyond that, you need some more justification as to that expense, but
And
Like
you're-
Yeah, we wouldn't be able, only the town has authority to do something like that, to borrow money. The school department, we're only a department of the town, you know.
right,
No,
but
no,
what,
I think,
no, that
I
could
think
be
what
built
he's
in.
saying is like,
Yeah.
we would
initiate.
pay for it out of our own,
into
out of your operating
out of
budget.
the operating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but that'd be something that would have to be a conversation with the
correct,
town,
correct,
because we
yeah.
can't do any of that stuff on
Yeah.
our own.
Yeah.
We're just a
Yeah.
department of the town.
Yeah, no, not on your
Yeah.
own, but if that was
Yeah.
a line item, say in
Yeah.
this year's budget.
Well, that
so to
has
speak.
been brought up,
Yeah.
actually, the well has been brought up as well in the past,
It
yeah.
could be, but there is
Yeah.
some, I mean, an irrigation well requires more water than a regular domestic well too. So
Mm, oh, yeah, probably, yeah,
it's a minimum
yeah.
9,
Well,
like 10.
a regular single-family residential domestic well, yeah.
Yeah. 'cause you-
Yeah, it'd be
Instead
more
of-
of an
you
industrial
probably-
Instead
one.
of 6, you need 8
Yeah.
gallons, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Prevailing
your,
wage, the
Exactly,
whole
yeah.
deal, yeah, so we'd have to, yeah,
So,
that would
I
actually
mean, there's
cost.
risk of you could drill a well
Yeah.
and, you know, go down
And not have
600
water.
feet and not get enough
Right,
water. I know
right.
the athletic department did for the VFW field, they tried that. They thought and they couldn't get water enough.
Right.
Yeah,
For the soccer field
At the-
out.
behind the VFW.
Yeah.
They couldn't.
and then you're paying prevailing wage for all that time that you've got somebody there digging.
Oh,
So,
no, you
yeah.
just call like a well company and they come in.
Yeah.
And an average well
Yeah.
today is, if you go down, between 400 and 600 feet, you're probably
Yeah.
gonna be in the, 15,000 range,
Yeah,
somewhere like that.
But like I said, if your
Mm.
bill was
Yeah.
53,000,
Mm-hmm.
That's.
we had no idea our bill was gonna be 53,000 though.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that.
There's no way
Looking
we
at
could've
that,
known
if you know that,
Yeah,
Historically, what is it over the
Yeah.
summer? I don't know how far back that goes.
well, like I said,
The rates went
we got
up
back
as
to
well.
2004, but
yeah,
And I don't know,
you want to look at every other one. So, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
last year was a completely opposite exception because it was the wettest year ever.
Mm-hmm. yeah,
So if you just follow down,
every other?
yeah.
so the highlighted one was this last bill,
Yeah, looking down, but every other.
right?
Okay.
But if you,
No, never anywhere near.
but I wouldn't look at the dollar amounts. I
Obviously,
would
we
look
wouldn't
at
be
your.
thinking that we would ever
Just
get a
the
bill that
usage.
high.
Yeah, look at the
Usage.
usage
Usage
because,
column.
our rates have gone up.
Yeah, oh yeah,
So
we
the,
knew
the
that.
255.
Yeah,
So if you go down every other from there, and like Colin had pointed out that, or maybe it was Josie, but back in 2005, you were 100,000, 30% higher back then than you were this last year for usage. So you're
And you had, like,
consistently very
2000
high in the summer,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so like
yeah.
2014, it was 270,
which
at
was
the end-
higher than this year.
Yeah, at the end of the summer.
every year is different, yeah. Yeah,
But that's why I was saying that if
Completely
you could
different,
find
yeah.
some of those ways, if you had, like I said, a senior project or something that they found ways to eliminate the need to water, if you had drought resistant plantings or rain gardens or, things like that to.
Would that get enough
Yeah,
water
really.
to irrigate the soccer field?
So when I looked at it, I mean, your soccer field is low,
Yeah.
so gravity would be working to your benefit where the school is. If you
Yeah.
capture the rainwater, it's just a matter of the cost to put in a tank or whatever, and then.
Thank you.
Like I said, gravity going down, I don't know if you'd need a pump system if you put in kind of a drip irrigation. But
You have to have enough head, you wouldn't have enough head pressure, would you?
not for a sprinkler, like I said, it depends on how you laid it out. There's irrigation systems that you put, that's in the ground, and it just works like a drip system as opposed to sprinkler heads that spray. Which is actually better because you're introducing the water at a lower depth, which is where your roots grow deeper. When you water deeper, the roots try to get down to that water. Where you guys are watering during the day, most of your water is up top, so your roots don't grow deep. And when your roots typically, however deep your roots go, is how well the top of your grass will grow. So the deeper your roots grow, the stronger your grass is actually going to be. So, so watering like that, like I said, subsurface is better than watering on top. So
So what about, here's a thought, I'm just gonna throw it out, just see if we, don't allow the abatement, but allow the exception meter, and that would be the money that you would realize each year, and that would be, say, that was what, 30,000? So if that was,
just this particular bill anyway,
yeah, but I think that's
Rates went
under
up
the
too, but-
rates, the way the rate
Yeah.
structure is on that. So,
Yeah.
and it was historically higher too, so say we just used it around and up, it went down to 20,000, if you average that out, it would be the savings of that, and then if you explored the 1 year savings, I think you could probably put a well in and have the irrigation. So I guess what I'm looking to do is maybe that with the savings that we realized in the water bill, in 2 years' time, you could, if you did an exploratory enough investigation to put in your own well on the property, that would be able to irrigate the fields, along with maybe like the cisterns like Bob was talking.
Yeah.
And then
Couldn't they put a system down on the bottom?
a cistern.
Or cistern tank, or?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they did it at the elementary school. They know what's involved. That was, unfortunately, you had a bad condition there, so it was probably a lot more expensive than just installing something from new.
Yeah, everything's extremely expensive, as you well know, Bob, with all the projects that you do.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't run, could you use the water from the runoff from the parking lots and stuff, or not?
I'd be cautious on the stuff
Too
in the
much
parking
oil.
lots because of the salt and
Salt
everything, because you
and-
guys
Sauce
know,
and oil, yeah.
just safety reasons with
Yeah.
kids, they probably salt a lot up there.
Mm-hmm.
But roof drains and stuff,
Mm.
you could probably come up with something. But like I said, this year it wouldn't have helped you any, because we didn't have any rain, you wouldn't have collected anything, so.
Yeah,
But like Colin's saying, if you put in a well, and then did it, you'd probably want some type of cistern type thing just to buffer everything and keep it working correctly, but.
Right, if you had a well that only produced, say you need 10 gallons a minute for the irrigation system. If you had a well that only produced 6, but you had a cistern, which was enough reservoir, that would keep that full, then you could run that out, based on time.
What's a cistern for us lay people?
Is it?
It's just
a
a
big
tank
big
in the
tank
ground.
that you have in the
Big tank in
elementary
the
big
ground.
tank in the ground, we have one at the elementary school.
Okay.
So you have a huge one up at the elementary school.
And how does that collect water?
So they have a well, and the well just fills that.
The well fills that
Fills
up.
it, yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes when you're up
And
at
they
the
pump out
track,
of that.
you'll hear it running.
Okay.
And that's just, it's filling the cistern in the ground.
So then the well produces 6 gallons. What is it? A minute?
Right.
If it produced, say just for.
And
I want to say your
Ten.
numbers at the elementary school were like 5 or 6
The
gallons.
storage
a minute.
would give.
And the
you-
storage would get you up to the 10 that you need.
Right, yeah.
Right.
And then obviously when that runs dry,
Right. So it would
Yeah.
irrigate until you drain that tank down,
and then it would fill
and then
it
it would
over.
fill up overnight or
night, whatever it was,
during the
and then-
day or whatever.
Okay.
You'd fill the tank until it got back up to the level, and
Or if the well was adequate, you wouldn't even need a tank. If
Right.
you drill the well, so it all depends on what that.
So obviously it'd be
Right.
less expensive just to do the well if you have to get that
System,
tank
right.
system. You gotta pay the, okay.
Yeah, for well money. I know they have one up at North Village. They have one up there for their fire protection.
How many gallons is a typical?
the one at the elementary school is pretty big. I want to say might have been a 30,000 gallon tank.
Okay.
It was big.
Okay.
That was
That was a
as
huge.
you were aware,
That's
that
big.
was
I
that
remember
was a
seeing
huge
that.
project.
That was a huge, that was a.
Yeah, but that's because they had a
precarious
well
project.
that I don't think that well is even suitable to supply a single family house. That's
No,
how
that's the
that's
well.
how diminished that well was.
Is that bad?
That's the concern I have. I know up in that area,
Yeah.
the water is it's deep.
You're either gonna nail it or you're not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
No, I-
wells are hit and miss.
I've done some wells.
I
up
had
there.
a
Yeah.
I had a
yeah.
well out in Charlton that
Yeah, they definitely are.
we had so much water we couldn't get the water table to drop. And then the water quality was terrible, so they went 30 feet next to it and drilled a new well, and they were down 1,200 feet, couldn't get 2
Yeah.
gallons a minute.
That's what happens.
That's
It's
weird.
like,
I mean, we all know. Yeah, we all know that. Just yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you just don't know.
so
So along
It's-
with what Colin was saying with that exception meeting and stuff is then also just the water ban, just, trying to adhere to that so that we're,
Yeah, we should be
You know.
watering from.
so we're not watering during the day
Have to
at
look at
that
that.
time of the year. And then fine tuning the sprinkler heads, so you're only watering really what's needed. So, so I mean, if, say, I don't know exactly how the sprinkler heads run along the building and stuff up top, but, do those really need to run in the summertime? You're really just trying to save the field for sports season coming up and the kids returning.
Exactly. That's what we do.
right. But I know that like
Yeah.
up at the high school, you've got when you're going around the backside where the boilers are.
Okay, yeah.
So where you got that little ramp down there, I mean, you've got irrigations all in those little parking islands.
Yeah.
So all those have irrigation. Those are things that I was saying that if they came up with something like you have the kids do some kind of study to see what plants don't need water and or minimal water, drought resistant, and you plant those in there for like low ground cover, something that you're not mowing and weed whacking, and it just it looks nice and it meets the purpose of it, but you don't have to water it. Like I said, and trying to get an island the size of this table and get sprinkler heads to spray so they're not overspraying, and
Yeah.
so it's a difficult thing to do. But why would you want to water that if you don't have to? If you can plant things.
Just focus on the field during the summer instead of all the other stuff.
And the irrigation of the fields that you saw, this summer, was that a historical problem?
It's every year.
Every
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I've had customers come out yelling because I take pictures of their watering at the wrong time, or you see.
And they come in and look at us, okay, I get it.
So, but it's one of those habits I have. I drive by, I see somebody's even in my own town. I get pictures of the college watering the driveways and sidewalks and everything else.
So I guess we look for, I would make a motion that we allow the use of the deduction meter at the high school, provided they explore the avenue of the drilling of a well for the irrigation. And,
That meets DEP guidelines.
yeah, that's consistent with DEP guidelines.
What size meter will we need for that?
I'd have to look what size line they have going for the
Yeah,
irrigation.
I don't know anything about them.
I'd have to go look at the plumbing to see.
Probably inch,
see
inch
where
and a
it's-
quarter.
I would say you'd probably be sufficient with a 1 inch, but
It just goes on a pipe, I mean, that's my visual of it, it goes on a pipe, it's just some kind of a counting
No, you have to
mechanism,
make it
flow
different.
mechanism. That
Yeah, it's a
just
flow
grab-
meter.
You know,
there's a bunch of them on the counter out there.
Yeah,
but-
Yeah.
it's just a regular water meter.
is it these here with the black and the red?
No, those are batteries.
Oh, okay, I see. Well,
It's late.
those don't look like batteries to me, not any batteries I've ever seen.
Show you that in the
I would assume.
Oh, okay, something like that, that's
Probably-
kinda like
this
how
is
I
a-
visualize it, yeah.
Yeah, this is a 1 inch
And
meter,
just
so,
grab, the flow, yeah,
So it's just,
yeah.
so it just measures.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense, yeah.
Put that in before the backflow preventer and stuff like that.
Ah.
Yeah, so
maybe-
Well, you guys already
Yeah,
have a
backflow preventer, yeah.
So I'm not sure what size pipe goes off of your irrigation system. I didn't get that much, so.
Whatever
I
size
don't know.
pipe it is, if the meter one size smaller, it should be the same.
Under meter sizing, they typically go a size smaller.
Yeah,
You need to run a pipe that's 5 pipe lengths before and 10 after, like, 10 before, 5
Now, is that to
after.
change the pressure that's going through the deduction meter?
No, it's
No.
just to make the meter more accurate, and it brings
Oh.
it down and it increases the velocity going through,
Yeah,
because you're going through a smaller size, and then when you go to a bigger size, it slows it back down.
like an engine,
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, yeah, I was thinking of, yeah, something else that works the same way.
but in that short
Yeah.
span, if you went to a size smaller, there's not enough friction loss that you would lose volume
Yeah,
for,
yeah,
for the purpose.
yeah.
So then the next discussion would be the application for abatement. So
Oh,
I would make a motion that we approve the abatement as presented.
Now, how much is the abatement?
That they're requesting.
When we were assessed, just for the sewer portion, it was $30,398.30. Was just the sewer portion on that bill?
But that's for everything. That's the building and the irrigation. It's not just, because you don't have an exception here, we don't know how much was. We don't know how much was
No, that's just the sewer consumption, was the $30,398.30. That's the only thing I included on
But
there.
that's.
right, but what I'm
that's
saying is
100,000 on
that's
the bill,
the
though.
full sewer bill.
Right. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. That's why I tried to give you some information.
Yeah.
I really couldn't give you really any more, I just tried to give you some
What would
information
the
about what
normal
was going on.
consumption? Oh, we don't know what the
No.
normal consumption is.
Yeah,
Well, if you look at her explanation here, she kinda went through everything.
But that's,
No, next page, this one. So this one here, she kind of explains, the bill for the high school in 2021 for the same time for, well, that was,
yeah,
like
that
I
was
said,
very
20
rainy, I know.
2021, I would throw that out, cause that was an
Yeah.
exceptionally wet year, probably the
Yeah.
wettest we've had.
I've learned more about water today than I've ever known. So we're billed in 6-month increments,
Correct.
Yes.
yeah,
so we're watering the fields in one half of the 6 months and not watering the fields in the other half of the 6 months.
Correct.
So if you looked at, I mean,
Right.
I'm spitballing. So if you looked at
Maybe
what
an
we
average
did
of
for
20 or something.
water outflow in the 6 months we weren't watering the fields. So if we so
Right.
during the summer months, if we used 30,000 gallons, but in the winter months we only used 10,000 gallons, is it an assumption to make that 20,000 gallons were used to water the field?
Right, so if you look here,
Try
like
to
if,
come up with some methodology
some-
that might
I mean,
make some sense.
so if you go back to
but,
2020,
It might be reasonable.
like during your watering season, you used 235,000. During your non-watering season, you used 125. So you're almost double. So roughly half.
Yeah.
So half is going towards the fields.
Right. Well, actually, you're probably going a little more than half because you're not in school session, so they're not using
Using
the
it
water
inside.
the
Yeah.
building as much
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
outside the building. But we're assuming that's all irrigation. But the other problem is with a building your size, all your toilets are flushometers. So where they're not getting used a lot during the summer, they have a tendency to stick. So if somebody hits that and it sticks and it just runs all night long,
Yeah.
that's where you would use a lot of water.
That used to happen a lot down there at the school.
Right, so, I mean, Josie's familiar with it, and we've had a couple customers that I've told them, look, this is what's happening, your toilet's sticking, and they're like, oh, they can't use that much, and then I said, just do me a favor and get a plumber to fix it first, and then we'll monitor it and show you the difference, and one went from 20,000 to 8,000. So,
In a residential?
yeah, well, no, it was a commercial
Oh,
building.
okay, okay.
But a $20,000 bill went down to $8,000 just based on that one
One
toilet
sticky
that we knew. And actually, he had mentioned it to me. He was like, "Hey, their toilet's leaking. You might want to let them know that." So they got their bill. They had a cow, and we went and
Yeah.
talked to them. And
But we pay plumbers a lot of money to come
My
fix
last
stuff all the
six-
time
my
at the
last
schools.
6 months I had one house, $11,000 water bill for 6 months because some idiot let the water run and not say nothing.
Oh, come on.
yeah, we could write a book on all the stories we had. We had somebody come down
My new
screaming
water
and
bill
yelling.
this time around was $1,200.
Wow.
The last 6 months was $11,000.
Yeah, we had one landlord
Unfortunately,
came down
I-
screaming at us that
This
we were
guy's
ripping
gonna
them
give
off,
me
that
the
we were
big-
lying, that the meter
No
wasn't right.
mercy, Josie, no mercy.
And when the next day we told him, like, look, there's no way for a meter to read high over. It's just mechanically impossible. So he came back the next day. He's like, I'm sorry. He said our tenant didn't have money to pay for her oil, so she just turned the water on and let it run so the pipes wouldn't freeze, and just let it run 24/7 through the winter. So when they got their bill, it was huge. So he didn't realize she was doing that until he went there to figure out.
You still have
what
the
was
water
going
heater
on.
that you have to pay for.
No, she didn't have heat. That was the problem. So she just
Couldn't
let
afford the
if
oil.
Oh, just let the water run, not
Just let
hot
the cold water
just
run, yeah.
water running.
Yeah, you just keep the water
Okay.
running,
I thought
'cause-
you meant hot water.
because moving
warm
water
Oh
won't
my
freeze. So if
God.
you keep the water moving,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's amazing what people do.
yeah,
So,
But we don't do any of that.
not
We
on
have plumbers
purpose.
regularly working on our stuff.
Is there a bathroom
Yeah, through that,
through that door?
through that door. That and then,
Oh, jeez, I'm
Don't
sorry.
leave the water running, Paul.
No.
So, could you get the number on that, Bob? What would be if the sewer portion of half of the water? Half of the water goes towards generally speaking, half of the
Okay.
water goes towards the,
well, if you want to go with half, then if she said it was 30,000,
398.30. I mean, I've got a copy of the bill there too.
yeah, so
to back it up, you know.
30,398. So half of that would be 15,000.
199.
okay. So, that would be a source of the water portion would stand, or this half of the sewer portion of the.
Yeah, just the sewer, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the water we use, we're paying for, and we
Yeah.
have no problem with that, you know. Yeah.
Is it gonna bake 15,000 instead of the 30?
Yeah,
Yeah,
If that's-
okay. It's agreeable with me.
so half, what was the total number in that?
It was $15,199.15 for someone.
And we understand that it's hard to gauge and all that, so we appreciate, you know. It's not an easy thing to come up with.
So I would make a motion that we abate $15,199.15, which would be half of the sewer portion of the bill.
I have a second.
I'm not seconding it. I'm not gonna second it, if you wanna second it.
Did you second it?
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. I'm opposed.
Okay.
So what we did is we abated $15,199.15, which was half of the sewer
Yeah, that's a
portion.
yeah.
And then, except the deduction meter with
Yeah,
the
we'll look
condition
into
that we
that.
look into,
Mm-hmm.
looking into doing the well, the irrigation with cistern.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that'll save additional money, must be a little money up front, but I think also they just, down the line, they'll save a lot of money, probably
Yeah.
within a couple of years.
Yeah.
Well,
We're gonna need to
thanks
put
for
on
the support.
capital.
Thanks
Yeah.
for the education. And if you ever see the, I don't know who you called, if you ever see that stuff, come talk, just pop into the office.
All right.
Come see me in court and say,
I'll call,
hey.
well, you got my cell phone.
Yeah. Just come
I
in.
think you do, don't you? Don't you have my cell phone? 'Cause I know I have
Probably.
yours.
Don't give him your cell number.
I know I have yours. I've got everybody's cell
I'm
number.
not sure, yeah, everybody gets mine.
You have to call Jeff.
Scan that, that's my contact information. Just scan that.
Oh,
Yeah, I know, don't say anything.
You can't wait to pull that out, I bet something.
No, it's,
You and I have a mutual friend that I know would be all over that,
who?
Ed Berman.
Oh, you know Ed? I would love that stuff.
He would, he would.
Absolutely. How's he doing?
Great,
Okay.
great, a little stressed out, but
Yeah, he's got me out.
do you want my number?
How well do you know
Or
Ed?
I can just
yeah,
give
we
you,
work
just write it
together.
down.
Yeah.
508
Oh, you do?
yeah,
826
he's a bus driver for me,
2769.
Okay.
but he only
So
drives
I know I have
if
everybody's
there's like
number
a
now.
funeral or
If something
something.
happens,
Yeah,
I gotta be able to call
everybody
people
has
right
a
away.
He's a great guy.
He's got a lot of
Oh.
stuff going on at
Great.
work. It's-
Yeah,
It's always
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
So we're gonna put the reduction in or deduction meeting, whatever you wanna call
Yeah.
it, for the time being, and you're gonna look into putting a,
Correct.
well,
Well,
probably do the same as you did the, middle school.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Well,
hope not the
no,
same, let's hope they
yeah.
make out much better.
yeah,
the
well,
well-
Yeah, yeah.
Hope the well can do it, we don't need whatever that.
Yeah, the
tank.
cistern, yeah.
And to be honest,
Yeah,
if you,
that was a
if you
huge-
put that in, it helps us too, because then you're
Yeah.
not using the water that, we have to treat it, and it's actually probably not as good for your lawn as natural water that's not treated.
yeah,
'cause-
that's the other thing, cause with there's chlorine in it and stuff, cause we're treating it to make it drinkable, so.
Right, so
Oh,
we're
yeah,
disinfecting
yeah.
it, and chlorine will kill grass. So luckily,
Yeah.
we put it in a very, very low dosage, but some towns have it much higher, like Webster, if they're watering their fields with the town water, it's probably not that
Oh,
good,
yeah,
because they really chlorinate their water.
yeah. Yeah, you know when you go to restaurants in various towns and cities and you
Oh,
take one
yeah.
sip of their water, like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, that would free up capacity for us, so we're also limited on how much water we can withdraw, and we're getting close to that with some of
Yeah,
these
wow,
developments
yeah.
going on. So we're gonna have to go to the state and go through, it's usually like a 3-year process, but it was one of those things that we at least got them to include when we fought with them, and they finally came up with a settlement on our Water Management Act permit, that they would try to expedite our process if we go for an expansion on our withdrawal permit. So we're getting close to the limit on how much water we can withdraw based on our permits. Not based on what our capacity of our wells are, just what the state permitted us to withdraw. So that's usually like a 3-year process. They said they would streamline it to make
Oh
it
my
quicker,
God, 3 years.
but if we run into one of these big projects that's going on and they need a lot of water and we can't supply it, we'll lose that tax revenue and development and everything
Yeah,
else.
I know,
So-
everything's a double-edged sword.
yeah, so I
Everything's a
mean, if we,
double-edged sword.
like I said,
Yeah.
if you free up capacity, it just frees up our ability to supply more customers and bring in more revenue. And the more customers we have bringing in revenue, the more it offsets what we have to charge.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I understand. Do you guys have, do you have tanks? You must have big tank, water tanks
Oh,
like we
yeah.
do in Uxbridge. Like how many do you have?
Just
we
one.
have 2 right
Oh,
now.
2, yeah.
Oh, we do have 2, wow.
Yeah, so up
Douglas
But it
on,
depends on
Yeah.
capacity, but that's.
so up
that's
behind
what we got
the,
too, yeah.
up behind the town common, up by Chesborough's property there, we have a
Oh.
250,000 gallon tank.
Oh, wow.
And on Franklin Street, we have a 750,000 gallon tank.
Oh, wow.
And part of these projects
Boy,
that we
that's
have
good, 'cause
going
you
on.
never know these days, you know?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
other discussions of a tank at the top of North Street. So.
Yeah, wow. At least geographically too, if they are in different, just because
And
you
that's
just never
one of the reasons
know.
we want it up here. It kind of
No,
gives us a little more
yes,
stability,
yes,
and if something
yeah.
happens on that end of town,
Right,
this end of town
exactly.
loses water. So
Yeah, these days you have to think about those things even more, you just
I know,
don't know
I
what's
know.
gonna happen, yeah. Yeah,
yeah, that's part of half of the big projects that we're doing.
Give
We're
it my
trying to
best for me.
create
How often do you see
redundancy
him?
and
I will.
resiliency.
We
Yeah.
talk every couple of weeks.
Okay.
But
wow.
you guys should thank Bob and Eric, because all of his efforts in getting those grants and everything, that was
Yeah, oh yeah, he's,
did.
yeah, I've been to a lot of his meetings,
but
yeah.
that's an $8.5
Yeah.
million project
Yeah.
that we're in the middle of. That is all free to our ratepayers, you know, based on all the grants and everything that we got.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of upgrades that we did that had no cost, that we don't have to incorporate
And
into our
build
rates.
into your,
Yeah.
right, exactly,
So that was a
exactly.
huge help for
Yeah.
everyone in Douglas, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, really appreciate.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time, and you be getting back to me about the deduction meter, like how that's gonna
Yep.
work and all that. Okay, when you figure
Yeah, I'll
out.
have to come up
And again, the whole
probably
the
go meet with Jeff or
regulatory
something and
aspect
see
of
where
it
it
as
is.
well.
Yep.
You know, the part, however you phrase that,
Yeah.
whatever the
DEP.
rules
They
are.
put a
You
wall
know.
in
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
irrigation,
Yeah, this
they
way we
don't
make
Yeah,
sure that
right,
they're hearing what
exactly.
DEP wants.
Right.
They don't have to
Exactly,
go
yeah.
through any permitting if they're using just for irrigation, well.
No, so you would just need to go through the Board of Health. It wouldn't, like I said, it's just for irrigation, so you wouldn't have to
Yeah,
meet all
right.
the
Keep
crazy
forgetting that that's a
requirements that we would
different,
have to meet
Place, yeah.
You're talking about just the well, right?
for a
Board of
well for
Health.
So-
irrigation, yeah.
How much time would you guys, I guess so it doesn't just fall through the cracks, or we can just follow up on it, you know,
How often do you meet?
We meet monthly.
once a month.
Monthly.
1 month a weekend.
It's October.
It's October.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I'm just thinking, because it's
And
obviously
capital
this-
won't even be coming out until January, February, as far as if we end up having to put it on capital,
Yeah, so the whole.
you know, so usually those forms come out in January,
Yeah,
then we'd have to get some estimates,
yeah.
you know, what it would be, it's way over the cost of
No, I know it's
regular
over.
capital, yeah,
yeah.
so it would have to go on a capital, yeah.
Well, it'd be,
Yeah.
a regular, for irrigation, wouldn't be, I don't think it's gonna cost you that much money. I mean, you get 3 bids from 3 local well companies to do it.
Probably
They're
all you
probably
need.
gonna be,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna say 20,000, just to, based on.
Yeah, keep in mind, we
historical.
have to pay prevailing wage too, which really increases everything dramatically.
And there might be some system work. I mean, somebody's gotta,
And I would,
Yeah, and we don't know how far
Yeah,
down you have to
yeah,
go,
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
and,
I
you
would
know.
look a little bit at the prevailing
know.
wage,
Yeah.
because drilling a well is more of a service than a,
That's-
so.
Oh, no, I'm very, very up on the prevailing wage.
Oh, I know, but if you look at it,
Very
like,
knowledgeable about prevailing
like
wage.
we're exempt
Yeah.
on some of our things, like our
Yeah.
engineering, we don't have to meet the,
Not engineering, but anytime you're digging around doing anything like that, that's.
no, but even
prevailing
like
wage.
the
Yeah.
sewer evaluations that we're doing right now.
Oh,
we're
yeah,
not-
that's not prevailing wage.
No,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're paying people, but it's a company coming in with employees and they're doing work in the field, but they're considering it's service work, it's not,
All the work that we pay for prevailing wage on is service work. You
right,
know?
but I'm just saying, if you look at it, it may be
Yeah.
something, like putting in a well may be exempt, one of the
Yeah,
exemptions.
I've got the prevailing wage guidelines, I talk to them,
Yeah.
the state, on almost a weekly, monthly basis, I'm
Sure.
very up
Would
on
December or
prevailing wage.
January?
Because we do
be good
tons
to
of
come back for
projects
an
at the school
update?
department, yeah.
We'll come back.
December,
Yeah.
January might be a tough time of year to be putting a well in, but,
Well,
No, we would be
just-
putting it
just
on,
No, but
Yeah.
just,
Just the-
Yeah.
he asked for when can we come
Yeah.
back and give you guys an
Right.
update as to where
what
we
they
are.
found out.
So obviously
Yeah.
November's a month, we couldn't turn
Yeah,
around that
yeah,
fast.
no,
So
yeah.
just say it's December or January to come back and meet with you, to give you an update on
Yeah.
what we've done, the homework we've done, who we've talked to.
yeah,
what
because by
information-
then we'll have some information that
Then
we're gonna
we'll have
be
some
putting on
information.
capital, because we'll have all of that,
January will
yeah.
probably be good because you're
Yeah.
at 60+ days at that point, so that'll give.
Yeah, and then we're at that point, I'll be getting all that information I have to get to put it on anyway,
I was gonna
yeah.
say, yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna wanna get it for your budget season, so
Mhm. Yep, and that's
I
when
would
we're
say,
doing
yeah,
all that,
that's
yeah.
when you're doing all
January,
that.
February
Yeah,
would be a good
yeah.
time.
Okay,
Yeah,
That'd be terrific, yeah.
okay.
yeah. Okay.
And if you guys have any information in between,
Yeah.
if you just email it to me, I can add it as part of one of my reports
Okay.
to update them.
Yeah, okay.
Just to save you guys from
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
in, 'cause,
yeah.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know, like I was talking to her
Yeah.
about before the meeting, some of these meetings
yeah,
get quite long.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, we end up in the
Yeah.
weeds a lot in this department.
Yeah,
So,
pun intended,
Yeah, yeah,
stop watering them.
yeah, right.
We can make a lot of jokes with water and
Oh,
silication.
there's a lot of jokes.
I think that was a hint that the meetings are going long, so we should wrap up.
Yeah.
That was a subliminal message.
Yes, I got it.
we haven't even got into our meeting yet.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for having us, thanks for
Okay,
helping.
thank you. Okay.
All right, you're
Looking
welcome.
forward to.
Some homework to
Yeah,
do.
thanks for
Okay.
See you guys later.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye-bye, take care.
Thanks, have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye.
Alrighty. Alright, Bob, you wanna give us the, sort? You got both this time?
No, I got the water line. Steve actually did it, and I have no idea where I put it. Tore half my office apart looking for it earlier. Well, did you guys? I always forget we do it backwards with the.
What are we looking for?
I was trying to figure out which ones we did first, whether it was meeting minutes or reports, but yeah, we got
The
reports.
report.
So we have a, we have the sewer.
We got sort of, we have water.
Yeah, I don't have the water. Like I said, Steve gave it to me, and I have no idea where I put it. But there was nothing, let's say, out of the ordinary. And I can give you some of the updates anyway.
Okay.
All right, so for the monthly sewer report, we used we had 7.24 inches of rain, 4.085 million gallons of flow for an average of 136,000 gallons a day. Synagro hauled off 121,800 gallons. We wasted 77,352 gallons for an average of 2,579 a day. Used 633 gallons of alum, 305 kilowatt hours of electricity, and the river average was 14.457 cubic feet per second. Peter was preparing for the fourth quarter toxicity and waste sludge analysis. Changed the sampler tubing on both samplers. So for sewer stuff, I don't know if you guys want to discuss some of it now or under the project updates, but since we're talking sewer, I guess we'll go over some of the project update at this point. So we've been pushing as hard as we can to get the work done this fall for some of the second part of the big sewer, or the big project that we've got going on. The majority of that project is the sewer for the second phase. That's the 4-inch force main from the Blackstone Valley Logistics Building up to Gravity, which would start at about the town line, Old Lackey Dam Road. And then it would go to Gravity, which would Gravity down to what's going to be a new pump station where the Gilboa Street pump station is right now. But in the meantime, because they've got to build the pump station, and of course everything is delayed, as you're all aware. Supply chain issues, VFDs for the pumps and everything else are delayed, so there'll be a time delay in getting that pump station, the package pump station built. One of the downfalls with the EDA grant that we went through is we couldn't do anything, we couldn't start the process of ordering any materials, pipes, parts, pump stations, anything, until we got a notice to proceed from EDA. So we went through the bidding process. I think you're all pretty much aware of the bids and all that. I sent everything out, but we have the apparent low bidder. They came in substantially below what our estimates were from the engineers, and they were substantially lower than the second lowest bidder, like about 500,000, so almost like 30% or something like that.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So we've had several meetings, Zoom meetings, discussing with the contractor, the apparent low bidder, making sure, their original in their submittals was like 14 or 16 weeks to get started on pretty much anything, which doesn't meet our needs. We need to get the sewer moving forward some this fall for multiple reasons. One, we want to let those trenches settle through the winter. You get that frost and then settle again, and that'll make sure we don't have any issues like we did on Northwest Main, where it settled a little bit because we paved too quickly. So going through Uxbridge and the DOT area.
Plug Bridge.
Yeah, so we have a lot more stringent requirements, and we want to make sure we get through that section and everything settled before we pave next spring. Because we are doing a full mill and overlay as part of all this project. So we're trying to get as much of that done this fall so we can get through the winter to let everything settle better, to make sure we're good for when we pave. Plus we need to get that here so that we can, meet our requirements as part of the agreement when we agreed to provide water and sewer to that contractor. You know, luckily they're a little delayed, just like everybody else on some of the components of their project. Their electrical service is a lot more delayed than they anticipated, so they're trying to make some changes in order to speed that process up a little bit, reducing the size of their service and stuff, just to get something that's more readily available. But some of that's in contention right now with meetings between all the inspectors and everything, so we haven't resolved that issue yet, but like I said, we're trying to push to get the sewer in, so we got word from EDA today that that the bid looked good, that they would recommend to move forward with that contractor. So we're hoping to have signed contracts by the end of this week, and then a notice to proceed hopefully by either the end of the week or beginning of next week from EDA. Once we get the contract signed, then the contractor can start, you know, ordering all their stuff, material and everything else, so.
Contractor, 1 or 2?
One.
Okay.
Yep. So, you know, they seem, you know, we met with them, we went through all the references, everything checked out. They seem eager to move forward. Like I said, we met with them a few times, went over timelines. They went back to their vendors, got agreements in place to be able to get it within our time frame, so
Okay.
we should be able to, so I would say it'll be a pretty quick start right around our next meeting if we have one.
Well, that's good. 'Cause I thought they said they were like 15 weeks or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 14 to 16
Yeah, 14
weeks
to 16.
before anything. So now we've kind of had a verbal agreement to get them started by November 1st. They've secured pipe so they can get working on that. So
Oh, good. Okay, very good.
Well, that next phase, that's from
Blackstone Valley Logistics.
Blackstone Valley to pump station, and then from the pump station up here.
Yes. So the one that we need is the 4-inch from there to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's set up in 2 different configurations because we were trying to be as versatile as we could in the design process. So I'm not going to get into too much of the technical stuff right now, but we need the force main to come from there to the gravity to come over, and then temporarily get that new gravity from Old Lackey Dam Road down to that pump station to feed into the existing pump station. So to get them their occupancy permit, they'll need to have the ability to have their pump station operational, which would send it to us. So we can temporarily get by with the pump station that we currently have. It'll be a tough, long winter, but I don't anticipate them having full flows over there until
No, for a
next
while.
spring or so anyway, which is when we would have the rest of our upgrades done, and then we'll be in good shape. But
And then they're gonna run from the pump station
from
all
the pump
way up
station,
to here.
well, it's gonna go all the way to, what was that guy's name? What's that house? Reed's old house?
Mm-hmm.
So right across from him is where the force main goes to, and then it goes gravity from there to here.
Oh, it only goes up to their force? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then gravity can work, and
Mhm.
it'll just come over here.
Oh, okay.
It's already
that's
quite
all they have to
a lengthy force main.
Yeah.
So
That'll be good.
Oh, so it ends right at Reed's old house and then comes gravity?
yeah, so if when you're going down, you go past
Terry, isn't it Terry's house? Or did she sell it?
No, the house.
The one
up
after
the
that.
hill.
Oh, the one after, okay.
so the next one after that, you got Reed's that's up,
Yeah.
built with all the slats or whatever.
Yeah.
You know? So across the street from that house, if you look at where the guardrail ends, there's a manhole just after the guardrail when you're heading towards the mill. That's the manhole that the force main comes into. So that's how far we need to come with that. And then it'll be gravity from there across through the siphon. So
It has nothing to do with water, it's just strictly out of storage that we have to finish up.
all the water's done, all down here, all up North Street. The only water we have remaining is to go from Davis Street down Northeast Main to the Uxbridge line.
That wasn't included in this bid.
That's in this bid.
Oh, that's in this bid?
Yeah, so we weren't
That's what I
pushing,
thought,
we
yeah.
weren't pushing so much to get that done this fall. I'd like to get it done, like I said, I'd rather have it sit through a winter, but, you know, we're out of time, so, you know, there's only so much you can do in the time we have, so. But, you know, if they get the material in, I mean, right now, if you call vendors, they're talking 52 weeks. If you order pipe now, you'll see it next year at this time for ductile iron. So, you know, we did well getting ahead of it for this initial project. We got lucky that we pulled it off when we did. And same with the sewer pipe. Sewer pipe was long wait times too, but we did a lot of discussions with vendors ahead of time, trying to let them know, hey, this project's coming and we need pipe. So, you know, if you can get it, it might be a sale for you. So,
We've been very fortunate so far.
That's good that time. I didn't think they were gonna get that in this year, based on what we had talked about.
yeah, I mean, it was.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, like I keep telling Bob, you know, we gotta have all this stuff done by, was it October 15th when rabbit season starts? Because if we keep pulling rabbits out of the hat, we're gonna get shot at. So anyway, yeah. So we've been fortunate that we've been able to pull all the
Yeah,
things off and meet the
very.
timelines that we have. I don't remember if we discussed it last time, but we had. I know we missed some meetings, but so the water we did fire flow tests down there, and we were actually over what we anticipated getting. So our fire
great.
flows are good down there. If we can get the other projects to move forward, going up North Street and the tank up there, you know, this whole end of town will be in great shape.
Will be.
We just need to.
Now, this other project that's going in over here, that's tying into the,
Yeah, so that's gonna kind of complete the whole package that we're looking for over here by looping that through, and you'll loop northeast with Gilboa Street, which gives you feeds in two directions off of the 16-inch main. So you've got 12-inch off of 16 in both areas where we only had 6 and 6-inch and 6-inch feed in those. Now we'll have 12s coming from two directions instead of just one. We did some flow testing down here, and you know, before, anytime we opened a hydrant over here, they'd lose water, you know, up
Yeah.
your way.
right, yeah.
You knew that, so
Go up to my second floor.
Yeah,
nothing.
nothing.
Downstairs, you get a little bit.
Yeah, so in another part of the projects where we had those eye hydrants installed, I know I'd talked to you guys
Yeah,
about that a
yeah.
little bit. So
Yeah, it's a good idea.
in the past few weeks, you know, so I've got some text and stuff that I can show you because the fire department, either through John or Adam or one of the firefighters, they'll text me and say, hey, we're going to use this hydrant, we're going to do this, we're doing some training or whatever. So I got a text from John, said, hey, we're going to do some training at the common, and you know, we're probably going to use about this many gallons. And 3 minutes later, I get an alarm on the eye hydrant saying that there was a pressure spike.
Yeah.
So it worked the way we intended, so that's working well. It's amazing the data you get out of those things. And then same thing, we were getting regular alarm calls on this one over here that there was, you know, pressure drops or spikes. And every time it would happen on this one, I didn't think this one was going to give us a whole lot of data just because there's so much volume and pressure right here that I didn't think it would fluctuate as much as it does. But because those hydrants take data points, 256 samples per second, there's so much data that any little deflection picks up quickly. So we have picked up the spikes over here, and when we ran down to Blackstone Valley Logistics, we see the guy just unhooking the water truck that he was filling up with the hydrant. So now we're dialing those in so that when someone's using a hydrant, either a hydroseeder or the fire department, will get a notice. It'll also work if we get a water main break, we'll be able to
Pick right
detect it quickly, as opposed to waiting until one of the officers drive by and we get a call and say, you know, hey, we got water pouring out of the ground over here.
Well, you'd be able to locate it.
It'll give us an idea of where,
Right,
yeah,
'cause you-
based on that's the way we're trying to do it, is strategically locate them
Yeah,
in the
it's-
different areas so that we can figure out what's happening where. So
Technology's there.
yeah, and I mean, I've talked to some of the representatives from that company, and they're trying to come out with all kinds of things where they can measure different things in valves and everything else. I'm like,
Yeah, you can go overboard in the money that's associated with it.
yeah,
Is it really warranted on some of it?
right,
I
but
like this, like the hydrants, like strategic located,
right.
so you can pick up.
Yeah, so I mean, they're talking valves and everything else, but I'm like, yeah, if those pressure sensors go, what do? You're digging up the road to get down to that valve? I mean, these, at least, if something goes, I mean, you quickly dismantle the hydrant. I mean, we do that all the time. So
Yeah.
you just pull the guts out of it, you can fix whatever you got to do and put it back in.
Done.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I like this concept.
I agree.
One of the parts of that monitoring system is it monitors the water temperatures. So the problem with the hydrant on that is sometimes you have a long hydrant branch and that water's just been sitting there. It's not that water that's flowing by all the time. So it's not picking up that temperature difference that you may get to kind of give you an idea of whether your water's sitting and getting old. Because if it's a long hydrant branch, it's going to be sitting there. The temperature's not going to fluctuate like it would on a valve or something that is continuously going by. But like I said, you have the downfalls of if there's an issue, you're going to be in trouble with the valve, as opposed to something like a hydrant where you can easily pull it apart. You're not in traffic or anything else.
So how about how about the gas? Anything on that?
There's been some meetings on that.
Did you go to Boston?
I did not. No,
I didn't go.
gas isn't part of my purview, but
I did not think they were.
yeah, no, I'm involved kind of behind the scenes, but not nearly as much. So
On that side, okay.
yeah, Bob, Matt, so Matt Wojcik, Matt Benoit, and Bob and Eric are the ones that are primarily handling and dealing with the DPU, and they've had a meeting out there. I think they have another meeting maybe Friday they got to go out to. So I think that'll be the big meeting. As far as I know, the last meeting went very well out there,
Good.
so it looks promising.
That's good.
And, you know, Bob, he's
Oh yeah.
got his foot to the floor, so he just keeps pushing. So he's
Didn't
doing.
ask for a better job.
No.
He's doing a great job.
Now the cubes up here, that's gonna just go gravity into our
Yep. So
main.
the cubes at Gilboa, they did the groundbreaking up there last week. I wasn't able to go to that. I think you
Yeah,
went to
I
it.
know
So
All the work he puts in, and he can't go to the groundbreaking.
I know. I couldn't make it either. Too much going on.
yeah, I mean, I would have went if it wasn't all the other crazy people worried about it. But anyway, yeah. So they did the groundbreaking
I did watch
ceremony
the.
last
They
week.
had
They have a video.
the
of it,
video. I did
yeah.
watch the video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was good. It was a nice presentation.
Yeah.
it's on Douglas's website, right? Yeah,
Was it on there? Somebody sent me a link.
I would think Bob probably
I
sent
found
it
it
out to you
somewhere.
guys too, but
if I could find it, anybody could find it.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Seen Bob holding the shovel, getting a shovel full of dirt up there.
so they that will go gravity. That's some of the
That's
discussion.
gonna be, they'll just put a line into pump station.
Yeah, so part of that gravity from Old Locky Dam Road down to our existing pump station or the
Oh,
new
there'll
pump
be a-
station.
Fitting in there.
It's going to be gravity, and where the manholes are strategically designed to pick up the Pine project, the cubes at Pine, if whatever that's going to be, and the cubes at Gilboa. So that project, the manholes that are involved that we need to get designed
They'll
that
all
way
be put in.
to get the angles are set strategically to pick up those two projects, and it should be all gravity.
And
So
then
they shouldn't have.
What
to-
part of the project is the replacement of the pump station? Is that the cubes at Gilboa, or is
That's
that? this one?
that's part of this
That's what-
contract that
that's
we're
what-
signing.
So that's not just pipe, it's the pump station also.
Correct. Yeah. So that low bid of that project and the pricing that we sent out was including that pump station and installation.
But that pump station probably wouldn't be until the spring then, right?
Right. Just
Yeah,
because of the
probably not.
delay on, I think it was 14 to 16 weeks to get that built as well, and I will almost bet that it's going to be longer than that, just based on my knowledge of what's going on with VFDs and the delays and everything right now, and there will be VFDs on that pump station. So that delay will be there. So I'm not as worried about the pump station because that'll be off the road. I just want to get the work in the road done, and like I said, we can limp by with the station that we have right now. And I'm not anticipating a lot of flow from them right now, so.
Okay, good.
And part of their pump station that they have down there to pump to us, I did require that they install one of the mission systems that we have to monitor all our pump stations so that we can monitor and see what's going on with their pump station. For one, I've got a few complaints over in kind of the North Street area of sewer odor. We know it's not from here because down here it never smells anyway. So I think what's happening is the pump station up at North Village is sitting there a little longer than it should. It's getting old, and when they pump, you're getting that kind of septic smell as opposed to if they pumped it more frequently, if they were managing it correctly. We have the same thing over here at the Hayward Landing. They got that pump station down in back that only has a few houses tied into it, and it takes so long. And we've gone over there, and they run their span so wide that it sits there for weeks before it pumps, and all of a sudden it pumps, and you get that gas smell coming up out of the manholes. So that was one of the things that I was going to start pushing moving forward, was any new pump stations will require that mission system, and they give us an access so that we can log in and see what's going on. We won't control it per se, but we at least have the ability to see that it's being run correctly. We don't want that pump station over there has a huge wet well, so their wet well for their pump station is way bigger than ours, and their wastewater is coming to our pump station,
Oh, really?
and that's including this development, which is almost twice as big as that one, and the next one, which is probably 6 times bigger than that one. So our wet well is smaller with all of that, plus the existing mill and customers on Gilboa comparison to theirs. So they have a ton of capacity, so they could end up letting that sit there. If that building isn't fully occupied and producing wastewater, it could sit there for a month before it turns on, and then you're basically running the septic system to pump it down here. So we could have odor issues and everything else. So that's something that I want to be able to monitor it and say, look,
Yeah, I never thought
your
of
span
that.
is too far. I need you to cut it down to this, so you're operating on a much smaller cycle.
Right, because now they get all different, the bugs.
Yeah, everything operates a lot different
Right.
here. You're sending septage, that's anaerobic, where we're running an aerobic system. So
Yeah, that could throw a bot system.
yeah, so that's one of the reasons that I want to be able to see that they're monitoring it and operating it correctly and not lacking on maintenance and everything else. So with that system,
Are we
have
having a
that
problem with
ability to-
North Village as far as
Just this
Yoda?
weekend when I was in, they called me from across the street from there. She said the last few days she's been getting odors up there. So I had told her to give me a call anytime because I was up there doing a meter change or something, and she had said we got this sewer smell up here, and she said it's only been the last few years, which tells me that it's probably associated with North Village. I think that issue will probably go away once North Village is completely built out, because they'll have a lot more flow
lot
and they'll
more
be getting
flow?
right.
Yeah, okay.
But like I said, if I had something monitoring that, I could see if it's a week before it pumps or whatever. I'm not sure what theirs is doing up there. So I did drive up there one time and I seen somebody up there pulling a pump. So they had already had an issue up there with one of their pumps. But those are things that if we had that system in place, I could see what's going on and know that either a pump went down or that they're operating on too wide of a span. So.
Okay.
All right, so did you guys want to do your meeting minutes? Did everybody review those already?
I did, I read through them.
We didn't vote on that.
Do them individually, because there was one, I think I wasn't there.
Yeah, I know we sent them out yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
We got July 5th.
Yep, so you've got July 5th and September 6th and August 2nd. Yeah, in that order there.
You want me to use another one of these, Bob, or do you want to just leave the one?
It's up to you.
We're about to run out.
I'd throw another one in. We still got a little while to go. Just
Okay.
to make sure we have copies. Alright, so the July 5th is all 3 of you. August 2nd is just Colin and Josie. And September is all 3 of you.
So can minutes 'Cause I mean, I see they have, like, it says discussion about projects, but if somebody wanted to know what discussion took place.
Yeah, I would have to do a little research on it. I'm not sure.
Because I know we approved the minutes, and that's the official record of the meeting. But
Correct.
if it lacks what was discussed, how does it, can you review a video to?
I don't think a video or a tape recording is official. It's whatever's in the meeting minutes is the official record of.
So if we're not here, and somebody wanted to ask for the minutes of the meeting, would they be able to understand? I mean, I get it, you guys get it, because you know exactly what to discuss, when we know what we're talking about, but someone else that wants to look at the meeting minutes may not know that. So I just, if you can review a tape that is in conjunction with the, then I agree that, then that's fine, so you don't have to go through all the, have a lot
Right.
of discussion and save a lot of time on minutes.
I mean, I think my understanding is that it's whatever is written is official. I'm not positive. I know that the tape is more official than the video recording because that can be doctored. So that's for the public's use to watch the meeting, but that's the official recording. So
Maybe we just have to look into that, just for.
I mean, we can't use that tape.
I don't know. That's the question he's asking, and I don't have the answer. So
Yeah,
I guess I would have
the other
to.
thing then is we're gonna have to be very, very restrictive about discussion. 'Cause like I mentioned to Courtney joked around that we get into the weeds,
Oh, yeah.
but we've gotta stick to the subject we're discussing and limit that scope so that it's possible to, you know.
I know the meeting minutes are
Capture
tough to
those.
do when
They
we
are
jump
tough.
around a lot.
They are.
Yeah.
That's what, but I'm just trying to figure a way that we can, like, 'cause, for example, I know there was, on some previous minutes that I looked at, there was like one sentence on a 2-hour meeting. But it had to be, it's on a budget meeting.
Yeah.
So it had to be during the budget meeting, there's probably a lot of things that should have been discussed. That should be in the minutes.
Right.
Of, recommendations and certain things like that, that we discussed in there, so, for the public record. But if they could, my question was if you could use the video or the tape.
Right. That's what I mean. I don't know
If they
that
said
answer. I have to
discussion
look.
with that, then they could look at a tape and listen to it instead of having to write out everything that, or simplify it, I guess is what,
Yeah, because we do kind of get.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't wanna make it impossible to make minutes either, but we wanna have them so they're informative if somebody needed to look at it, if we weren't here.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause we can't be putting everything in.
No, it's, go on and on, it'll take too much time.
Yeah, I mean, just based on this meeting, I mean, the first part of this meeting, I mean, that would be 5 pages of
Right, yeah.
minutes if you tried to get everything that was discussed in
Yeah.
that interaction there. But
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't have the answer to that, so I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I can look into it to see if there's some guidance on what the meeting minutes have to consist of. Whether you can, like you said, just point out, discussion about all projects, if that's enough, and then you can go to the recording if need be. Or if you need to get a little more detailed on that. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I can look into it.
And like, when you're looking at this top one, I mean, that was only we started at 7:15 and we were done at 7:40. So that was a short one versus
Yeah,
like September, we started at 7:20 and we were done at 8:37 and we've got 2.5 pages of meeting minutes. So,
Right. But I know which one you're talking about, because I looked at it too, the budget meeting
The
one.
budget one.
It was like, budget, it was smaller than this meeting minutes, but if you look at it, the meeting was 3.5 hours long.
And I just don't wanna get, as a board,
Yeah.
if we're not doing the right minutes, we should make sure, we don't wanna get in trouble for
Yeah.
not properly doing something
Yeah.
either. But we don't wanna be overburdened on lead to have to do all kinds of, we don't want 10 pages of meeting minutes either.
Yeah.
And that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will look into that to see
If there's a happy medium, come up with
Yeah.
what needs to be reconciled. So with that said, I'll make a motion to approve the July 5th, 2022.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
The next one is just you and,
August second.
yeah.
Make a motion to approve the August 2nd, 2022 as presented.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Where's that on the January 20th meeting, we gotta clarify?
What by?
You remember what that was?
Yeah, I think we made an amendment to a phrase or wording or something in the January 20th.
No, there wasn't a meeting, I thought. Wasn't, or was that the, wasn't there one that wasn't?
Oh, we had to, yeah, we had an agenda, but we didn't think we met.
Yeah.
Let me look at my notes.
Well, January 20th, that would be outside of a normal scheduled meeting, so that must have been a meeting that was
Oh, it's a
special
budget
for
meeting.
something, so trying to think of what.
Yeah, it was something about a Zoom
Oh.
meeting. It was something about a Zoom meeting and the
I
acceptance
think
of the
this was
donation.
the,
Accepting of the gift.
I was gonna say, accepting
Yeah.
the donation, we had a
Yeah.
quick meeting and you guys all voted to
Oh,
accept
okay,
the
yeah,
donation.
alright.
Just kind of a formality thing.
Yeah.
So just because I saw it in one of the meeting minutes there, they had a long meeting, I've gotta go back over it some, but on that lead service line inventory thing that we're supposed to do. It is an article that we have on the town meeting. So the way it's supposed to work is, we fund it, but then it's supposed to be through an SRF project. If we get accepted through the SRF, it's 100% principal forgiveness. So it's basically going around and we're gonna dig up a bunch of services at the curbs to determine what's material on each side of it. So we can have an understanding of whether we think it has a lead gooseneck or had a lead gooseneck. So originally, all the discussions were based on if it has a lead gooseneck, you need to identify it, and then it would go into your inventory, and if we exceeded an action level or something on lead or copper, actually it's just lead on that, but then we would have to implement some kind of replacement program where we'll start eliminating those lead goosenecks. But I've got to get into it a little more with the state on, you know, one of the things that they brought up, they said that if you have an iron service, even though you don't have a lead gooseneck, that you would potentially assume that that had a lead gooseneck, and that you would need to replace the iron service at that point, because it at one time had a lead gooseneck that was flowing water through and may have coated the inside of the iron service.
So is that project funded through us, or is that funded on the town's portion side?
It's, we have to appropriate through town meeting to say that we will pay for it. I have to talk to Gene about where it actually comes from, because my intent is I have no intention of moving forward if we're not accepted through the SRF. Now, the SRF is a loan,
Right.
so we would actually apply for the SRF loan, and then we have mechanisms in place where we can pay for it and then submit for the reimbursements and get it without having to borrow per se.
Have you talked to Matt about that at all?
I talked to Matt a little bit, I talked to Gene a little bit, but I do need to get a little
I
further
know-
in depth with it.
I know it was brought up, it was discussed at the selectmen meeting, and I was confused as to if, I thought the way I understood it was that Matt was, it said that he was in charge of that. So maybe I misunderstood what he was talking about, but just for clarity, I just wanna know if it's funded through the water sewer, or is it funded through the
So
general fund?
it's not,
And
was
he
that
say-
at
he was saying
was that at the Friday meeting? So as part of that project, through the,
Sure.
and I've told you guys all that I hate doing SRF projects,
Yeah.
but where it's 100% free money, I can't pass it up.
Mhm.
But they're not worth the headache of
Yeah,
going through 'em.
yeah, yeah.
So one of the SRF requirements is that you need to, the selectmen need to grant authority to sign and move forward. So they assign that authority to Matt as the procurement officer to sign for loans, which would be the SRF loan,
Mhm.
which if we're chosen as part of that project, that's supposed to be 100% principal forgiveness. So it's gonna be a loan, and then it's gonna get all forgiven.
Right. So I would just communicate with Matt and just make sure that he's aware of your position on it and our position.
Oh, Matt's aware, I have
He's on it.
discussed that with him,
Okay.
yes, but like I said, part of SRF's requirement is that that happens at a selectmen's meeting, that they authorize Matt
Yeah,
to oversee the signing and authorizing the funding and authorizing the project.
okay.
So it's not so much overseeing the project itself,
It's just
where I'll do that, it's just the,
funding portion of it.
right, as the procurement officer, and that's, and we've done that before on some of the
Yeah.
other projects
Yeah.
where, you know, you as a board weren't authorized to sign to move forward, it has to go through the select board who does it through Matt.
Right.
And they just need that document trail saying that the selectmen have authorized Matt to do that, so. That was, I sent those documents to
Okay.
Matt and the selectmen to have them go through that process, so.
After I watched it, I was thinking about it afterwards, I'm like, so is that coming through us or going through?
That was
the
through
general
us,
fund?
yeah.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
okay. I know, because I know we discussed it, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I was gonna
You're
say
in
that
sync,
was,
you're in tune
yeah.
with Matt on that, okay.
yeah, that was, I sent those documents to have
Okay,
them added
alright.
to their meeting,
All right.
so.
I wanted to make sure we were both going in the same direction. not-
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
talking about one thing and then they're talking about something else.
Yeah,
I'm basically the same.
and
thing.
I made it clear to them as well that, you know, I would find a better use for that money
Yeah,
than to do what they're requiring us to do, because I think it's a bit ridiculous, just the way it's. This is another one kind of like the PFAS where they're rushing everything, in my opinion. They're rushing it, and there's not enough. And I mean, all this has stemmed from the Flint, Michigan,
yeah,
where a lot of people got sick.
yeah.
It's not the circumstance that we're under, but I think it's just a lot of politicized information, publicized and political, because people got sick in Flint, and now it's out there so much that you see all the stuff that we don't want any, you know, the limits are,
Yeah.
you know, 0.015 on the lead and 1.3 on the copper. But that's not acceptable to a lot of people. Like, I was in some meetings where they're like, 0 is acceptable. So we want it below, we want it, you know, absolutely 0. You can't detect it all.
And we sample for that regularly.
We do.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that's, yeah.
And our numbers look good. But there is a little in there, which you're never going to get rid of everything. I mean, trees have lead in them, just from what they've absorbed. I mean, so sawdust, when you're cutting it, that's in there. It's in everything.
Yeah.
And they've reduced it to no lead in all our fittings and stuff, and none of the fittings are as good as they used to be. So that lead gave you that little bit of malleability, so that
yeah.
it worked. Now everything's so rigid that it doesn't work as well. It doesn't hold as well. It doesn't last as long. But like I said, they're trying to get everything to 0.
So, yeah.
you know, even some of the new stuff I've heard about PFAS coming out. I mean, we've gone over it, we've discussed it, I kind of beat it to death beforehand, just because I was a little nervous about our sampling, just based on historical stuff in town. When they set the 20 parts per billion limit. So, you know, the limit's 20 parts per billion, but they can only measure down to a certain level. You know, it's, like I said, that's one drop out of 660,000 gallons. Trying to measure that,
Yeah.
you know, the equipment they have is not capable of measuring much lower than what they're measuring. And that's 20 on 6 different compounds. So if you're, you know, the limit on their measuring of the ability they can measure to is probably around 2. But if you've got 6 different ones at 2 each, that's 12. That's more than half of what your limit is. So now they're talking about setting limits even lower. You know, I had heard parts per quadrillion at this point. They were talking about something at 4 or 2 parts per quadrillion. They can't measure to the parts per trillion, but they think they want to set limits at parts per quadrillion. You can't even measure to that. So I think they're pushing way too fast, way too much, and a lot of it is stemmed from some of these advocacy groups that come out and say, we want 0. They don't understand that if you provided pure water with no contamination in it whatsoever, it'll kill you if you drink too much, because it'll suck all the nutrients out of your body. Water doesn't like to be pure, so it's always trying to pull stuff into it. So you can't get pure water in
Get rid of this.
Yeah, that's trust that here.
You don't wanna know what swamp that came out of.
I've seen recalls on bottles of
Says
water.
purified on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've even heard of that.
So anyway,
All right.
like I said, that's another issue that's coming down the road. They're trying to set limits much lower.
All that just coming out of trying to approve meeting minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So, and that's where it gets tough doing the meeting minutes, because
I know,
we get sidetracked and start talking for 15 minutes. But
So I'll make the motion to approve the September 6th meeting minutes.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
but it's all very good, useful information that we're getting from that. A lot of stuff I don't understand it until you explain it.
right.
Yeah.
And trust me, even the people that are regulating it don't understand half of it. It's crazy right now with some of the stuff they're coming out with. But anyway,
Good.
I'm past that for now.
Alright, well, we kinda went through the project update, so.
Yep. Well, another part of that is we are in the process of also doing the Monroe Street, or Monroe Davis Street. So we're doing the engineering right now on that. I don't know how much you guys know about that, but it's
Yeah.
water and sewer design.
Yeah, it was like 385, I think that was, the grant, 280?
315, 314.9 or something like that, and then there was a certain amount came from the town to make up the
Make up,
difference.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it was like 350, 349.5 or something like that.
How far up Monroe is that going?
So the design part is to replace the water main in Monroe now. That's, I think it's kind of a mix. I think there's AC and cast, and I think it's 6 and 8 inch up there. So it's kind of a mix match thing right now, but it only goes down to a little ways beyond Reading Landing, and then it stops. So part of that whole design process is to extend that down and loop it into the Davis Street, and then extend from the high school to the end of Davis Street to the Uxbridge line, essentially. And then there's also some discussion on potentially looking at a source over in that area for a water supply. And it's just a very rudimentary looking at it, saying, hey, this could potentially be a site, let's look at it, and you know, that'll be another project to further investigate it, but they'll just do that initial overview to determine if they think it's possible for a source over there.
Yeah.
Just because we are trying to look at different areas to kind of diversify out of everything is right in that one area. if you had some major catastrophe in that area, you know, the whole town's down. So we wanna kind of expand out. I mean, we've got some areas on the map up there that we should probably start looking at. So I would like to, at some point, start some exploratory wells. And like I've said in the past, you know, we've got areas that we've designated under our aquifer protection map, which is more restrictive and you don't allow things. But if we go test and it's not a viable source, let's take them off of the restricted area and protect something that's more feasible to do or viable as a source.
Protect what we need to.
Exactly, and not,
Threaten someone else.
yeah, not, like I said, the section that we took out before, I would never put a well in that area. I mean, I just know the contamination over there. It's- I've even got a map somewhere that says it's designated as non-potable for a well. And then I can also tell you that you probably had conversations with a person that, when they put a well in to do something to get around using our expensive water, it didn't work out so well, and they ended up going back to using our water, so. So I know that area is no good. I don't know how that was ever allowed to drill a well over there to begin with, but
I don't know how they got it either.
that's outside of our purview, so. Yeah, so I just wanna let you guys know that they are in the process of doing that. It's a slow process. That's not something that we're rushing like these other projects.
Yeah.
These were kinda crazy rushed, and we do have an application, and we should hear between this month and next month on the design for North Street. So we're looking at trying to move forward for that. We did, Bob Manerick submitted an application for the MassWorks to get the engineering portion of that done. We did vote at town meeting to approve, I think, 100,000 from town funds to match that. And we're going for the other 500,000 or 600,000 for a MassWorks grant. So as soon as we hear about that, October, November, if we get approved for that, then we'll start the design process on North Street. So that North Street design, as you guys know, is kind of to support that project over at the Cubes at Pine. If that project moves forward, you know, ideally we would put a tank up at the top of North Street on that site that we had designated for a water storage tank. Back when we started the North Village project up there. So if we can get a tank up there and then loop, like we are over here, loop through that Pine project to loop the top of North over to Gilboa with a tank up there again, like I said, we would have no issues and everything would be pretty solid over here for fire protection for all these massive buildings, so. So we should.
That would be, yeah,
That would be ideal for this side, then we would really just have this little section, you know, heading down towards the ball field. All those little side roads and stuff that we would need to upgrade to get rid of that old 6-inch, you know, 120-year-old cast iron pipe that's tuberculated and getting old. You know, I think the average lifespan for the cast iron pipe, I think, was industry standard says 70 years, and we're at like 110, 112 years on a lot of that pipe.
Right,
over
yeah.
there, so.
Way up.
But we haven't had many issues over there, knock on wood. So that hasn't taken priority. But like I said, other than the cemetery street that we did, hopefully we'll finally get that paved this year. Other than that, there's not a lot over there that we need to jump on. We've got the other higher priority areas that we've been focusing on. So.
Yep. And then the only other thing I could think of on, if it would be project, but no, unless it was capital, was the generators.
So, yeah, I guess I didn't update. I guess that just came in. So we did get one generator
I
in.
remember you told us you had the one.
Yeah. So this weekend I moved that over kind of into position.
Yeah.
So it's sitting there. I just got to get it off of the pallet, but it's 2,500 pounds, and I got to figure out how to
Got it.
suspend it while I get the wood planking out from under it. Use rudimentary engineering to move it. I used some old pipes and stuff and rolled it over. Just because we couldn't figure out a good way to lift it without damaging the housing and stuff. So I did that over the weekend while I was in. So
Okay.
it's in place. We've just got to get it off of the pallet that it came on and lagged to the pad over there, and then we'll have to get somebody to come in and do the gas connection and then rerun the new electric.
Yeah.
The mice had got into some of the electric, so we're probably just gonna pull new wires from the transfer switch back out. And I'd like to set up like I have been doing at the other stations when we do electrical upgrades on it. We've been putting the switches for a portable generator. In case we ran into another issue where a generator dies, we'd at least be able to pull a portable in and plug it in to get us through in any major issue. And at some point, you know, part of some of the negotiations that we did, we were trying to get a portable generator, so if we have plugs, we can at least run that portable around to cover pretty much all of our facilities, whichever took priority, so.
And then how about this one over here?
This one I have not heard yet,
Still nothing?
yeah, so it should be any time now. I will give them another call, but I call and call.
I'm just
Kinda
thinking,
like
I'm thinking another,
years.
I'm thinking another winter, I'm like, oh.
Oh, I do not wanna go another winter. I stressed all last winter.
Is there somebody we can go visit?
Is there someone we can go visit?
An office we can go knock on, show up at their door?
They're just gonna tell you the same thing. Waiting for the manufacturer, everybody's on wait. I was actually on another meeting this morning over generators and, you know, somebody said, oh, it's like, it went from, you know, 6 weeks or 12 weeks to 40 weeks. I'm like, yeah, you better wait longer than that, because I ordered one in May of 20 and 21 and I just got it like 2-3 weeks ago. And that's one out of the two that I ordered at the same time. So, and my guess is that they may even get delayed more now because of, what was the name of that one? Ian?
Ian.
So Ian hit Florida, so FEMA and everybody else is gonna, they automatically divert.
Yeah.
So if that size generator is one that was needed, they're gonna say, yep, send that there,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
put them back in the list, so. I'm hoping that doesn't delay us much more, but I have a feeling that's a possibility.
What's the final read fee discussion?
Oh yeah, I forgot about those. So I think we touched on it a little bit last time. So the final read, some of the issues that we have is, you know, we did revise the policy back a while ago because people were, insistent on not doing what the policy was, where it was 5 days notice to get a final read done. So we implemented one if it was less than 3 days or less. I think it went from $50 to $100 for the fee.
Yeah.
And people are still, 9 times out of 10, when people call for a final, they want it that day. And it's just sometimes not even possible for us to get it done. But it's me dropping what I gotta do, Steve dropping what he's gotta do, and Lee dropping what she's doing in order to make it happen. But, to be honest with you, sometimes doing a final is not my priority. I got enough projects going on right now that are there's far more consequences for me not hitting deadlines on things, for me to drop what I'm doing to go deal with a final read. It's not worth it for the fee that we charge. And we've had customers say, yeah, we don't care what your fee is.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem with that is that the people that are requesting it, because it just goes on and
I know.
it goes on a HUD settlement sheet, so the
I know, the owner is paying it, the
Yeah,
realtor
right.
is requesting it,
Right, so
and the
they
realtor
don't
wants to
care.
get their commission.
They could
I
say-
understand it,
so you could set it at $500, and they'll say we don't care,
right,
Yeah.
because it just gets passed on to the owners, because they're going to get, they're the ones that's taking the brunt of it.
right. So, but if you make it public that, here's the policy, and, the seller or the homeowner should be like telling the realtor, hey, I'm not paying the higher fee. If you call ahead of time, you can get it for this. So that's one of the things that, we've discussed in the past of informing, educating the consumers. So, and I agree with your point, so.
They won't pay. And most people don't even understand.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is, I agree with your point that it's the homeowner that's paying the price for a realtor that's,
Right? And it
that
could
doesn't care because it's not their money, they're still getting their commission.
be- and it may not be, a lot of times that comes from the attorney's office that we requested.
Yeah, it's usually the closing,
Right, so that
the I
realtor-
forget which
yeah.
attorney requests it,
Yeah,
but,
so then the realtor, they panic and because they want to close, so they're the ones that go.
and I know there was a rule that was put out,
It's supposed to be 14
2 or 3
days
years ago,
on all, the whole.
right, everything is supposed to be 14 days in
days,
advance. But then you also get people saying, well, I'm buying this house, but the last 14 days, they could have been just letting the water run, yeah. Yeah,
That
so,
was I think that was the.
I understand all the catch-22s
Was
there,
the
but,
purpose on that? It was like a disclosure, public disclosure. They wanted to have the review documents 14 days, which
Yeah.
it's almost impossible.
right.
To do that. You can do it, but it's not going to be accurate when you go time to close.
That was one of the issues that we ran into today through some of these contract, you know, the requirements from the federal, on the EDA is, you know, they're saying that you need to have this in place, this in place, this in place. EDA needs to see the contracts and approve them before you sign them. And then as part of the contracts, we require the contractor to have the bonds in place. And then EDA saying that bonds can't predate the contract being signed, but
Yeah.
our contract says you have to have the bonds in
Yeah.
place. It's like,
Yeah, we're
yeah, everybody's got to, everybody get ready. We're all going to sign at the same time, you know. But they're different companies that you're trying to get all these things from. So it's just a nightmare logistically trying to get all these pieces in place to meet all the requirements of the different funding sources. So.
I'd like to just table that for the moment, because I think when staffing gets where it's going to be, I think that'll help out
Well,
on a lot of.
I'll still tell you that it'll be an issue regardless, because like I said, you know, Lee works 4 days a week, not Fridays. So when people call on a Friday,
No, they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah,
And
so-
they call it a Friday.
but that's the thing is
Yeah.
either adjust the fee to make it worth us dropping everything to go do, or set the policy to say, sorry, we don't do them same day. It's, you know, like I said, I know other towns that only do final reads on Mondays or Fridays. I forget what day it was, but it's 1 day a week that they'll do them. So if you call on a Monday and Friday was the day, you're waiting until Friday before they do a final. You know, we don't care what your need is or when your closing is. Here's our policy.
Yeah.
So either set the policy that says minimum 3 days notice,
Yeah.
and you know, we'll send a copy of the policy out to the real estate attorneys and the realtors. Just say, hey, here's our policy. If you don't
Yeah.
need it, then you're not getting
Yeah, they're
same
not
day.
getting a building permit on Fridays, the town hall's closed on Fridays. They're not doing any business up there on Fridays.
Yeah.
So,
But once people know the policy, you know, instead of us jumping through hoops to make these things happen on the same day, like I said, you can go one way or the other. Either make it worth it so that we can get revenue out of it
Yeah.
to fund the department better, or set the policy and say,
Yeah, but then
we're not doing
it
it 24
It
hours.
hurts the homeowner.
Comes out of the poor homeowner then.
That's the.
Right, but
And I think
it'll happen a couple times,
Yeah.
and then the realtor's gonna understand, I just screwed up a closing because I didn't request it soon enough. So, once you set the policy,
Yeah.
they'll follow it. And like you said, I mean, I think it's probably more correct, for lack of a better way to put it, to set a policy that says minimum 3 days. We don't do it within a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
Set that policy and then follow it. And once they realize and understand that's how it is, that's how it is. I mean, like I said, there's towns that do it once a week. If you don't get it in time,
Yeah,
then
I mean, I'm not opposed to setting a policy that says 3 days, give 3 days notice, and that's a reasonable.
yeah.
And then, I mean, if we can, if we have the ability to do it in the same day, then
Oh, I
fine,
agree.
But
I don't want to be
Right.
held to it that, hey, you're going to mess up our closing.
Yeah.
It's not us messing up our closing.
Yeah.
It's your lack of planning that messed up your closing.
yeah,
You know you need to do a final.
It's
Everybody
gotta be
knows.
3 business days too.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, like I said, I have no problem with that if you want to set that as the policy as opposed to a higher fee.
why don't we try that and see how it goes? See how,
All right.
we just kind of feel. We can always readdress it if we need to.
Set it so it's a 3 day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Three-
minimum
3
3
day
days notice. Yeah. But like I said, I mean, even the project that's going on up the street, you know, they were watching our meetings, and whenever I brought up when we implemented that $100 instead of the $50 for the 3 days or less, they were like, "Oh, we'll gladly pay that. So that's not a realtor or homeowner that's paying it, that's the contractor. And he's like, we'll gladly pay that, I don't care about that. You know, he just didn't wanna waste the extra 2 days or whatever, so. You know, they're willing to pay it,
Yeah.
that's, we gotta address it one way or the other. Whether it's financially worth it for our department to drop what they're doing and go do it, or they need to meet the policy.
So what if we have a policy that says, like we talked about, 3 days, for a read, and that's the $100 charge?
Yeah.
And then if you have a option, if it's the same day, cause I'm sure there's gonna be some that people are gonna be like, oh, God, you know, you don't want
Yeah.
that, an incentive fee that is a reasonable fee for to do it, you know, to drop everything.
That's what I'm saying.
To do
that was the purpose of this discussion, is to, you know, make it so it's,
I didn't wanna have 2 fees, though, I thought you meant, I mean.
We already have
I
2
I'm
fees.
not
It'd be a
sure.
third fee,
Yeah, I
but-
know what I mean. Right, keep it simple, but,
there's no simple way to do it other than get the policy out that says we don't do them in less than 3 days. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, if somebody's not busy or they're going by, they're like, oh yeah, I can go grab that read.
let's just leave it at that, let's leave the policy as 3 days and then see how it goes, and then if we have to revisit it.
All right.
I mean, that's,
Want to make a motion on that, or just
Well-
consensus?
Table it till the next meeting, but I would say we'll
Yeah.
enforce it that way for the time being. I just need to look at the way the policy is written right now, and if we need to correct the language to
Okay.
kind of do what we just said, so.
yeah.
All right. All right, the meter pit discussion.
So this is another one that a lot of towns have them. It's typical to have that you require a meter pit, which would go in basically right where the curb stop is, you know, in that area. If the structure is gonna be more than 100 feet off the road. Because if you've got something that's, you know, a 3,000-foot driveway, and they've got a water line, and it's leaking halfway, and it's downhill and going into a wetland or something like that, you don't even notice that it's leaking. The homeowner's not gonna wanna replace a 3,000-foot line, because they're not paying for the water, it's not going through the meter, they could care less. We're not gonna see it, cause it's out in the middle of the woods. There's just too much opportunity for lost water, and for us to go out and try to figure out service lines that are so far out in the woods and determine if they're leaking by either acoustic methods or whatever leak detection methods we have. For one, it's expensive for us to pay the contractors to come out and do those leak detection methods. For two, like I said, for our unaccounted for water, that would eliminate unaccounted for water, and if it's going through a meter, a customer's gonna be more apt to say, crap, I need to get that fixed. But it's just kinda industry standard to have something in place like that to eliminate the issues that you have with a long run that could, you know, that leak that we had over on the bridge on Manchog, that leaked for months. We couldn't find it because it had an easy path. It never surfaced. It was going out through the wall down into the river. You just never seen it. We knew we were losing water. It took us a month and 4 other leaks that we found in between. That we kept thinking we might have found it, and then it turned out not to be it. But
So what's a fair distance?
like I said, typically I've seen 100 feet from curb stop to foundation. If it's more than 100 feet, that's when typically they would install one. If you guys have a better number or whatever you think is prudent,
What
that's
about
up to you.
freezing? You're talking about putting a meter out.
The meter goes out near the road, buried in the ground. Basically, we have them like at the cemeteries. There's actually a meter pit over on Cemetery Street for that lot. That there's nothing there, but there's a meter pit there. So
But those meter pits
there
gotta
was
be-
something there at one point.
yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Someone had told me a trailer or something
There
was
was a
there at one
trailer, yeah.
point, but
So a trailer that had water to it and
Yeah.
electric and all that stuff.
so.
But the
And what
meter
is-
pit
what is
goes
a
down
meter-
4 feet?
So the way they're designed, and it was engineered so that it's a thing. I mean, it goes down 4 feet. It's almost like a to simplify it, actually, I think I have the paperwork out there on the counter somewhere. But to simplify it, say like a 55-gallon Rubbermaid container, but it's not really Rubbermaid, it's designed so that it takes the heat from down at 4 feet and it keeps that area warm. I've seen them used, I've seen them in multiple towns,
Yeah, now what happens if you have a high water table now, on something like that?
so the meter isn't 4 feet down. The meter is up higher. So there's two different methods. There's a hard pipe. The pipes come in down at 4 feet, and then they 45 up to a meter, and there's a valve, and some of them come with double checks so that it doesn't backfeed. But they're designed, however they did the engineering, and they work up in New England because they've been up here for years and years. It's designed that heat from the 4 foot level fills that area, and it keeps the meters from freezing. I've never seen one that had an issue where they froze, but they have another style that it's the can like that, but it slides, so it's got like a coil of plastic tubing, and then you can pull the whole section up, so the meter is lower, and you can pull it up to whatever height you need to, but you can pull it up to change it or service it.
So did anything prompt that discussion? Did something happen already with that?
It was just something that was on my mind, and then the thing that kind of made me revisit it and say let's add it to the agenda was there's a project up on Caswell right now that it's, I don't know what A&R lot or whatever, so, or reduced frontage, whatever you guys call it.
Oh, we just run it.
But when I looked at the plans, it's going to be like 600 feet. And like I said, it's on a hill. They're coming this
Oh,
way.
yeah, that's right, you told me about that. Yeah,
If it goes up like that and follows that path, and a leak starts here, you're never going to see it. You're never going to find it, and they're never going to bring it to anyone's attention because if it's down here, it's at the bottom corner where their thing is, and their house is up in this corner because the driveway's going to hook up and around. This will be the low point down here. If it gets a leak on that bend or that corner, they may never see it. We'll never see it. 'Cause it's out behind everybody. It's just in an area that nobody's ever gonna detect that.
They probably would see it there because that's the water table up there is. I think it's at the lower portion up there. That's a higher water table.
Yeah, I know,
So
and that
would come out of the driveway. That would start whatever they had.
well, I don't know because everything's wet up there, and we get calls every year for kind of areas over in that area.
Yeah.
Hey, we think you got a water leak. Can we go over there? Nope, it's just the groundwater coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
And I agree, it may come out of the ground, but I also think that if that area is all wet, they're just going to say, "Oh, damn, groundwater's up high again," and you won't notice.
In
So-
the middle of the summer when it's
Yeah.
it's bubbling up, coming.
Yeah, but it's also if that whole area is wet, water table goes down, it can absorb a lot of that water.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. It's like I said, you get ideal
what's-
conditions.
Yeah. What's the cost associated with one of those?
I asked for pricing and if they could bring one out for a demo. They said they didn't have any in stock, so I haven't got any ballpark answers for you on that. But
The other thing too is with a, quote, still relatively woodsy town, I think 100 feet would be probably kind of restrictive,
like I said, if you guys got a better number,
You know.
I'm just saying I think we need to have something in place before you end up with. I mean, there's a couple of them that we have that are so far out there that
Really?
I mean, well, actually look at the house that's like behind where that lot is. It comes off of Gilboa. And you wouldn't know there's a house up there if you didn't see the driveways. And I mean, if you look at it on the satellite, it's like, in my opinion, it's ideal. You're in the middle of nowhere with nobody around you,
So where would the meter be placed? So if you say you had a 600-foot driveway,
It'd be where the curb stop is, so the property line from the road to the property line. It
okay,
would
so
be-
if there's a leak in the middle, how you it's because the meter because it's running it. It's
Right.
at the property. Yeah.
so if all of a sudden somebody had a high usage,
Yeah.
you'd be like, oh crap.
So, right.
But I actually
I'd
went-
like to know.
Well, that would be put in where the curb stop would
Right.
normally go.
Yeah.
So maybe for the next meeting, could you see if we can get a cost associated with that?
Yeah.
And then we can try to maybe come up with.
Yeah, I tried to get it before the meeting.
Yeah. just so we can see, and we'll just talk about it next meeting.
But you'd also, I see advantages that, you don't have, we don't have the issues of getting access to the house. That's no longer a concern to us. We don't have to go into the customer's house at all. You don't have a meter inside their house. We don't have a radio getting mounted to their house. We don't have wires in their cellar. If the wires.
Some
get
people
pinched-
might like that. You see a lot of people putting their electric meters at the end of their property right now too. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I said, we've seen meters in houses that are at the bottom of the stair. You're like, why would you put a meter there? You're gonna trip down the stairs, you knock your pipe, you knock your meter off, break your water line. Just sometimes they're really inconvenient where they are. And if you didn't have the meter there and you could plumb it however you want, you'd be much a better scenario.
I'm definitely not opposed to it, but I just need a little more, just the cost of it. and
There's
then-
pros and cons, yeah.
Yeah.
There's an added cost, but how much is your driveway gonna cost you on a 1,500-foot or 600-foot driveway?
Yeah,
So, a few hundred or whatever it is for a meter pit is the minimal cost based on, all the other added expenses that you're gonna have going that distance. So, but I understand your concern that it's an added cost.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then what distance do you go?
Yeah, like I said, I've seen 100. Do you think that's too restrictive? I don't know. What's your typical setback? 50, 50 feet is your
Typically,
setback?
it's 50-foot setback requirements, they'll say.
Right, so you're at least 50 feet,
Right,
but typically,
but if you get out in the RA zone, a lot of times people are further back.
Oh, yeah.
You can be a couple hundred feet back,
right. But that's where you
But then we don't have
start to
any
get concerned
We
over
don't have
it.
any water services out
but there's
there
no
either.
services out in the RA either, so.
Right, so that's what I'm saying
Yeah,
is,
if you're in the service area, yeah, you're probably, yeah.
so your typical house isn't gonna be that far off.
Yeah,
Most-
typical houses, say 75
I was gonna say,
just,
right, that's why I'm saying 100 foot.
yeah,
If you're beyond 100 foot, up to 100 foot, you're standard anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So anything beyond 100 foot, which is gonna be very few houses,
it would only be, the only time I would probably.
like
be-
an A&R lot or a
would be-
retreat lot or something like
would be a
that.
retreat lot. Probably be the only time you'd be more than 100 feet
Right.
on a 20,000 square foot lot.
Right.
And then if you're on a 60,000, which is for the reduced frontage lot, at that point you have to be 200 feet.
Right.
So we want to make it consistent with tying,
The 200 foot.
right, with what's consistent with what the zoning is. That's all I'm just thinking out loud and saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was a discussion and not the policy yet.
Yeah.
I've been
I
doing
can-
inspections on houses that are like 600, 700, 800 feet long,
Yeah.
but they're not on town water though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Not
that's
yet.
different.
Not yet, you're
We'll
right.
get them.
Okay.
But I just wanted to start having the conversation.
Yeah, no, it's always good to.
I did put it in there as part of my comments that they would need a meter bit for that one on Caswell.
Mhm.
Just based on looking at that, I'm like, that's gonna be a nightmare, but, I just wanted to catch that ahead of time, but just so you guys know,
Well,
I did put that
I'm
in there.
not
so-
opposed to, if you use your discretion, if you don't have a policy, but if you use discretion,
Right.
look at something like that and say, look, this is what, this needs to be done here in this particular situation.
Yeah, and that's what I did on that
Yeah.
one, I just,
Yeah.
just looking at that, it looks like a nightmare to me, and I'd just rather avoid that, but it just makes my life easier if we have a policy in place, so that it's not, well, how come you made
made
me
him.
do it, you didn't make him do it? If we got a policy, I can stick to it and say, here's the policy, you
Yeah.
trigger it, that's all there is to it. I don't like just using my discretion and picking and choosing, you guys know I'm across the board pretty much on everything, and, I try to do this, I stay
No, I know.
consistent as I can, so.
But there's always the oddball one that you can say, you look at, you're like, oh, it has to have this, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some of the
so,
other ones you could be like, yeah, just borderline, no big deal, but.
yeah,
And you get that one.
so,
I think there was another one we had on Glen U Street too, I think we did that one, right? Is that the one? Was there,
no, on Glen Street,
on Glen,
that one I started to require, and then they were like, oh, wait a minute, yeah, I guess I don't need a 2-inch service to my house.
Oh, yeah.
Cause I told them, that's a 2-inch service, you're doing a 2-inch service, and I kept telling them, you don't need 2-inch to a single family residential house.
Right.
And they're like, oh, that's what I want. I'm like, well, if you want that, you're running some business out of your house that uses a lot of water, cause, I mean, I've seen 3-deckers with a 1/2-inch service
Yeah.
line. You think you need a 2-inch for a
Most
single
three
family
decades in
house?
Western, the whole 3 families run off a half inch.
Yeah, so I'm like, they insisted. That's the one that I started, and that's what started my whole thought process on the meter pits originally. I just haven't pushed it because we really haven't had those issues, but
Yep.
this one just brought it back to the top of my list again. So
Okay. I think we're good on the goals, right?
Yeah, we're good on
I
that.
think
Yep.
we got more than enough things going on.
Yeah, definitely good on that.
One of the question I had was, we had discussion on the advertising in the house first, right?
Yes, so that I couldn't go up last week.
Okay.
All 3 of them are pulled up right now on my computer, so those I'm hoping to go up tomorrow to sit down with them up there and get the in-house and whatever I need to do to get them out as well, whether we do it ourselves or I think Matt was kind of saying that I needed to go through Lisa to get all the postings done, so. And I know they need to go through Chris, so, the town clerk, so. I will, hopefully get those out tomorrow, so.
Anything else? Keith?
I think we've
On?
covered more than enough.
Yeah. We did.
I told her for her first one back, you might not have picked a good one.
So we could continue another hour or so, you all right?
Don't let them. I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 9:21.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.